10 minutes late. It's not our usual pattern to do that. We always start on time, all our programs. I'd like to welcome you all this evening, our fathers, mothers, elders, traditional rulers, spiritual leaders, ladies and gentlemen. INDG, Ijaw Nation Development Group /IPA, welcome you to this very important discourse on the proposed water bill by the National Assembly, Federal Republic of Nigeria. As we are aware, the national bill from the public and interested parties. While we have Ijaw senators and House of Rep members who are of Ijaw extraction, it is our belief that we can strengthen their arguments and their resolve and their position and that of their colleagues through a strongly worded, unified, and equivocal position of all Ijaw organizations facilitated by INDG this evening. It is in this light that we have put together today's event with the theme, the Water Resource Bill, a further distortion of Nigeria's federalism. To engage and educate us will be some of our best Ijaw resource persons. They will evaluate this bill as it concerns us as Ijaw people and proffer their thoughts in guiding our eventual resolution. Some other schools of thought have even wondered why we need to submit memoranda to amend an imposed 1999 Constitution coupled with a lopsided membership of the current National Assembly. Time permitting, this will be the first of a three-part program. We do intend to interact with our sister ethnic nationalities in the South-South to come up with a zonal position. This will also be followed by similar session with other ethnic nationalities in the southern and middle belt parts of Nigeria. Hopefully, this will culminate in a southern middle belt position on this issue before the National Assembly. Once again, we thank you for taking the time to attend to this program. We do apologize for starting 10 minutes late, and I'm sure this program promises to be an enlightening one for everybody. Thank you and God bless you. Moderator, please go on.
Welcome everyone to this program, and thank you, Chairman of INDG, for the welcome address. The next item on the program is the Chairman's opening remarks. Opening remarks by the Chairman of today's event, that is Ambassador Bola Ejale. I am not certain if he is on already. Is the ambassador in?
It's not in yet.
It's not in yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe go to the next later.
Okay, then we would have to move straight ahead to the keynote speaker. And I'd like to invite Tari Oliver to introduce the keynote speaker if she's in. If Tari is not in, then I think I'll just go ahead and introduce the keynote speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, today's keynote will be delivered by a legal titan, Chief Anthony George Ikoli, one who has made a huge success of combining two legal service worlds of litigation and corporate commercial law practice. He is the first lawyer from Bayelsa State to have attained silk, that is the rank of a senior advocate of Nigeria. He became the Honorable Attorney General of Bayelsa State from 2007 to 2012. As if following in the footsteps of his illustrious grandfather, one of the greatest pioneers of the struggle for Nigerian independence and doyen of journalism, Ernest Cisse Ikoli, Chief Anthony George Ikoli is increasingly devoting his attention to the actualization of genuine federalism, public interests, and collective or community rights, using the law as an instrument of social engineering. All this while maintaining a thriving commercial and litigation practice as managing partner of the law firm of Anthony George Ikoli and Okagwe. It is my pleasure to invite Chief Anthony George Ikoli to deliver the keynote address for this event. You're welcome, Chief. The most learned senior advocate of Nigeria.
Hello. Thank you very much, sir. Let me quickly do some corrections. First of all, if you want to address me as a chief, you'd say Chief Ernest Cisse Ikoli II. Otherwise, AGI is not a chief. I am Chief Ernest Cisse Ikoli II. Number two, I'm not the managing partner of, there is no firm like Anthony George Ikoli and Okagwe. There's a firm called George Ikoli and Okagwe. The managing partner is a man called Sam Okagwe. I'm just a partner in the firm, even though I'm a named partner. Now, let me quickly say that it is a wonderful thing to be thought, to be adjudged competent to deliver this keynote address. Now, the topic itself is Water Resources Bill, a distortion of Nigeria's federalism. When I was invited to provide this keynote address to this eminent gathering on a subject that has in recent times become a very topical and in some ways disturbing topic, the topic seems to be on its own, self-propelling. It was my view that perhaps there was sufficient interest by the public. I didn't think there was anything more I could add to it. Anything to deepen the current discourse. First of all, again, sorry, sir, as an aside, let me quickly say that I have sent a small paper to the organizers of this webinar. That paper was sent to Dotimi, and it was sent to also Chief Ben Okoro early this morning. So, and I think I also sent you one as well. So that is what I would be, if you have it, and if it's been downloaded, uploaded onto the website of the INDG, that is what essentially I'll be going through this afternoon. So having thought that I didn't have much to add to it, I now discovered that indeed, perhaps what was missing in the whole discourse is that the process of lawmaking at the National Assembly was denied group participation, was denied societal, sorry. was denied societal engagement. So what was, so the widespread contributions as these have been missing ingredient in the lawmaking. So if we are all looking for a national rebirth, if that is and we're looking to situate the Ijaw agenda, this kind of webinar is a synchronon. It is something we must have. It is something we must engage in. And that is why I thank all of you this afternoon for organizing this kind of webinar. I'm trying to just fix this thing. So sorry, I'm having some little this thing here. Now, before the conference started, I had had a bit of a talk at the background with the chairman of the INDG, and I said to him, when I was given this assignment, I first of all tried to find all the versions of the bill in existence. There are about 6 versions of this bill in existence. Now, my paper, which I believe some of you already have, focused on the 216 bill, and some of you would have seen also that down the paper, there are discussions of the 220 bill. Now, whatever version you have, whether it's the 220 bill or the 216 bill, what is important, what is common to all of them is the fact that the command and control of water resources all over Nigeria now be invested in the president ultimately through his Minister of Water Resources. And that is where the mischief, as it were, begins. Now, taking a critical look into the much heralded National Water Resources Bill that is currently making its way across our national legislature and the national consciousness, I am at once compelled to align myself with more eminent speakers who in recent times have come to the difficult conclusion that such a bill can only be the product of the yet undisclosed, I feel and I fear ultimately, deleterious agenda, which means that a critical analysis of this bill would convince everyone that there is an agenda deeper than what is manifest or apparent on the face of the bill itself. Now, the interesting thing about this bill is that the authors themselves may have overlooked in its conclusion what would kill the bill itself. By this, I mean that in the bill itself, there are contradictions that even if we do not strive very hard, these contradictions would spell its demise. For a piece of legislation whose veiled intendment is a grand usurpation of rights due to autonomous federation units that exist within it, the strangely implicit recognition of the rights of ownership by the federating units of the water bodies within their jurisdiction. What I mean by this is that in the bill itself, by seeking to take control of the bill by that implicitly recognizes the rights of ownership of the people to their waters. Because if you don't recognize those rights, you cannot now seek to take them or control them at the center. There is consensus that federalism, which is what this seeks to distort, is a kind of government or an arrangement where governmental powers within a country are shared between a national, countrywide government and a number of regional governments, all equal in status as governments in such a way that each of the national and sub-regional governments exist separately and independently from others and operates directly on persons and property within the territorial area of its jurisdiction with a will of its own and its own apparatus for the conduct of its affairs, and with an authority in some matters exclusive of all other states. Now, this means that in a federation, and I'm sure we're all aware of of what is meant by federation. I have referred in my paper to the classic definition of same by Professor Nwabueze. It just means simply a system of government where there are different tiers of authorities, all co-equal, none more superior to the other. But the bill as presented here and now, seeks to derogate from the equality of the states. It means essentially that the state, the supranational body, now regards all the co-regional governments as subservient and subordinate to it. That is a classic distortion and derogation from the principle of federalism. In the words, and I went on to cite a case, I gave the Court of Appeal case of Edosaka and Osakwe, where I quoted the dictum of Oseji JCA, and he went on to say to properly address the issue of to be expedient to embark on forage of constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And then he went on to cite the sections of the Constitution that have been derogated by the federal government. I also went on to cite the Supreme Court case wherein the current Vice President won a case against the federal government when then he was the AG of Lagos State. The section 2 of the case was defined as denying the federal government from authority to derogate from the powers of the state. I went further again to say that the National Assembly cannot make laws on this bill the way it is structured without assaulting some critical elements of the Constitution which have been made inviolable. I traced the history of the Land Use Act, and I said it's a part of the Constitution that have been made inviolable. This bill, the way it is presently couched, would be an assault on the Constitution, on the powers of the states, if it is passed the way it has been presented to the National Assembly. Then I went on to describe briefly to give briefly the brief history of the bill. I said in my paper that the president, saddled with all the issues, has now thought it fit to leave them alone rather than go to present a bill on the water resources of the country. I said that The President Water Bill was presented to the Assembly in the year 2017. And I said, I described in my paper how there was a cacophonous debate, and it was largely criticized, opposed, and subsequently stepped down by that assembly. Now I said that this assembly, the ninth assembly, has brought the same bill forward. And because of the majority that they enjoy in the assembly, it looks like it might pass. I said that this bill has passed the first two readings at the House of Representatives. It is going to go to the Senate. And I said, unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know how to describe it, those who opposed it the last time have all seemed to lined up behind it. Now the bill, if it is passed, by whichever definition, it just means having ascribed commonality of ownership to water resources, wherever found. It means that the Ijaw people can wake up in the morning tomorrow and find somebody from out of state, out of territory, claiming rights to the use and control of our water resources. And that, two things will happen there. Number one, it's a derogation from prime constitutionalism. It is also an assault on the Ijaw identity. To give the main issue. And I said, the question why a bill was sponsored by the federal government, the question why a bill sponsored by the federal government has now in itself a reputation as a decision of Nigerian federalism. I said that is the issue, and I said the question, the answer must not be out of reach of the provisions of the bill, which, if examined vis-a-vis the other bills, the other water bills, it will be found that this is another attempt by the supranational body to whittle down the powers of the constituent units of the federation. I said again that by the extant laws, the minerals and mineral oils of the under the states have been appropriated by the center. Now, what remains, the only resource remaining for the states to use to cater for the interests of the people is the water. And now that water itself is being appropriated, which means that we may ultimately change our name from Federal Republic to the Unitary Republic of Nigeria. I said, all surface water and groundwater, whatever the cause, is a resource common to all people. That is the language of the bill. Now, the right to use same, management and control is also vested in the federal government. And I said the bill now creates a public trustee and over all waters in Nigeria. That public trustee is trusteeship is headed by the federal government, by the president. So in effect, the president owns all the waters in Nigeria. That has never happened before, and I'm not aware of where it has happened anywhere in the world. It is a proposition peculiar to Nigeria. It's an assault not only on the federalist intentions of Nigeria, it is also an assault on the Ijaw people. I said, now, I went on in my paper as well to say, to now list the consensus of those who have made common cause with rejecting this bill. I gave instances of the statement from Pandev. I gave instances of the rejection of the proposition by Afenifere. I gave instances of position by Professor Soyinka. I gave instances of the talk by Senator Anete Okon. I gave instances of the position of the governor of Benue State, and I also mentioned some persons from Afenifere Rural Group, Yinka Odumaki. Now, what runs through all these instances is the rejection of the proposition that the federal government could certainly on its own wake up and appropriate the bill, the water resources of the country. Of course, it is always a welcome thing for a government to cater for its people and must be within the law. Is a massive derogation from the original arrangements as put in place by the founding fathers of Nigeria. Now, also came to the useful aspects of the bill. Now, this bill recognizes that the water resources or the minerals or the natural or the people that the people own the land, the people own the waters, the people own the resources. Otherwise, it would not have appropriated what they've owned and transferred the ownership and control of same to a central body. That act of transference of title, ownership, management, control implicitly gives us and these appropriatory measures being put in place by the government. Now, I went ahead to say and to give my own recommendations. They are 16 in number. They are in the paper from pages 12 to page 16. I would recommend, I will post this when this is done, and I would go through the bill, speak to one of the very important recommendations. The federal government has recognizing the rights of ownership of the natural resources by those who are indigenous to a locality where the resource exists. The government acknowledges that there is an urgent need to address natural poverty and lack of alternative livelihoods. Nigeria stands as a global off-taker of natural resources mined by indigenous people who reside within a given locality. Now, these three things can be extended to the Niger Delta Ijaws. It means, and I was referring there to the presidential, to what I call PAGMI, the Presidential Artisanal Gold Mining Development Initiative. Now, that initiative, which is ongoing, is what can be replicated in the Niger Delta. Let the government recognize that the oil and gas and water belong to the Niger Delta people. Let the government serve as off-taker for the development, for whatever is developed by the people from these resources. let the government recognize that there is poverty and deprivation in the Niger Delta and act as off-taker to take from whatever they produce, only insisting or regulating or asking for tax to be paid to the government. This has been the cry of most of the activists of the Niger Delta. For the first time, there is implicit recognition of the rights of ownership of the people. So that is what we can now build upon. All the activists, let me put it this way. It is, what is happening is recognized is rights of ownership of the people now being recognized by the government, given legal imprimatur, and treated as they have been treated, as they've treated the gold and mining up north. Now, again, a distortion of the current federation is most of the cases from the Delta that go to court for damages by the IOCs or the oil companies have as a head of claim damages to the environment, water sources polluted. Now, if this bill goes through, that head of claim where the communities, Bacana, Brass, they would be denied the locus to sue the IOCs or any transgressor for such a transgression, because the title to the waterways that have been polluted no longer reside in those communities. The government will say, well, all they will do is file an action and say, well, you don't own the waters, we own the waters, so you cannot sue us again or make a claim for it. And then you can imagine all the cases in court that have been filed now being unsuited or dismissed on the basis of the fact that you do not have the locus to take actions against the government or the oil companies because you do not own the waterways. Now, I have refused to join issues on those who are saying that there is some systemic Hausa Fulani agenda. There is some northern ploy to exterminate or annihilate or kill all the people from the Delta. I have refused to join issues, but if you look at the bill, the way it has been presented, and the way the arguments are going at the moment, it is not unlikely that there is some truth, some manifest truth in those beliefs or propositions. Now, the bill seeks from the government just to, it says it wants to manage, it wants to control, it wants to enhance, it wants to progress. Those words that have been used in the bill, whether it is the 216 bill or it is the 218 bill, are very, very fine and very, very lofty. But the implications for us as a people is very, very grim indeed. By the time the full implications of this bill comes into effect, we will not only have lost of course now we've lost the land, we also have lost the waters. Now, the Ijaws are water people. Our life is intertwined with water. If the water bill, as it is at the moment, is allowed to go through passage, then we've lost the land, we've lost the minerals, we'll also have lost the water. I don't know of a future of the Ijaw people without water. without our flora, as it is called, our very, very essence. It seems to me that the whole bill is against us. It does not sound very, 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 very convincing or comfortable to think that is a part of the federation would think or would would act in a manner that will deny the very, very existence of a part. It was to cure that fear that we adopted federation as a model of government. Now, continuously, the laws that have been made, the Petroleum Act, the Land Use Decree, this new assault, the new water bill, are progressively denying, assaulting our identity, assaulting our very, very existence. So, what to do? I have also in the recommendations list, which is in the paper which I have presented, shown that it is time for the Ijaw Nation to have a specific agenda, the Ijaw Nation by the INDG, to sit down with our legislators and give them a charter for the Ijaw Nation. If all they achieve at the National Assembly is articulation, is passage of this bill of the Ijaw Charter, then we have a right, then we have a chance of survival. Otherwise, like some birds, some animals that have become extinct, it is a very, very distinct possibility that the Ijaws too will become extinct. Now, this is not the time, this is not the place for the cry of separation or for exiting. We can stay in the system and fight the system. We only need to ensure a return to federalism and the federation as propounded by the founding fathers at the time of the grant of independence. I have refused or failed or neglected to mention provisions of the bill. There is section 10 of it, whether it is 220 or section 2, whether it is 216, that specifically vests, those are the vesting sections. They gave all powers over waters and everything to the federal government. I suppose that could be done by the guest lecturer, but it is sufficient to say that this bill, the way it is presently couched, is not only a derogation, not only an assault on the Constitution, on the federation, it is almost akin to a particular targeting the Ijaws as a distinct group of people. Others have land. The Land Use Act, yes, may have vested all the land to the governor, but there are traditional, customary rights that are in existence. Now, this bill does not leave anything to anybody. It just says the man in Abuja, the minister, of course, the president, and the minister, through all the committees and organs and organizations, the hydrological survey, the catchment area, the water basins, they would all be in control. Nobody can use water without a license. Now, the moment you need a license to get to exercise a right, that means you are the slave and servant, and you are the behest and control of the owner of the grantor of the license. The situation should arise that we do not allow the government to insist or to have the right to give us a license to use the waters in our backyards. Of course, some would say that, and this is something else again, that I discovered when I was reading the bill, that this bill was sponsored, was funded by EU group, some European do-gooders, so many of these international donors. I do not know their interest in the waters of the Delta. I do not know. Safe to say that perhaps they need water, safe to say that they need the federal government again to control that resource to enable them for proper exploitation of the people and the resources. It is not in our interest to go to sleep, not to insist on the federal government leaving the situation the way it is at the moment. It is not ideal, but at least it is possible for there to be, like I was reading somewhere, that the government
I think we may have lost Wills. I will prefer the moderator picks up another person on the line on the schedule, so we can move on while he gets back on stream.
Isaac.
Yeah.
Isaac.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have been instructed, ladies and gentlemen, I've been instructed by the moderator to pick on introduction. This is a 100-man conference. May I crave the indulgence of members here to introduce a few of our members who have taken time to participate in this conference, very pivotal. We have here Amalpu Senebo, Boboso Free Brown, BSB, you're welcome. We have our sister, the Amazon of the Niger Delta, daughter and servant of the Ijaw Nation, and Q Operum Breaks, you're welcome. We have our brother from London, England, our brother Anthony Tokito, thank you for always providing your presence. We want to thank our brother, our historical brother, the guy who gives us the ancient history of the Ijaw people and still doing. BB, Benaibi Benatare, we want to thank you for being here. We have our sister, Chief Constance Meju, a prolific journalist and producer. I want to thank you, Chief Constance, for being here. We have our sister, A.B. Fomodo Helen. Thank you for being here. We have our brother, A.B. Komunebo from the United States. We have the wife of the Deputy Governor of Delta State, my own sister-in-law, wife of my brother, Our Excellency A.B. Erin Otuaro is also present. We thank you, Our Excellency. We have our sister, Judy Asuni. Thank you, Auntie Judy. Thank you for being present. We thank our brother, Peter Edu from the United States of America. We have our moderator, our original moderator, the moderator of our original family, the INF, Ijaw Nation Forum, our brother engineer, Ben Okoro. Thank you, moderator, for being here. We thank our sister Rosemary Aluko. Thank you for your presence. We have Dana Masoma. We have Francis Ibekwe Alagwa. We want to thank you for your presence. And we have our own Dr. Pamo Igali from Atlanta, Georgia, my city, USA. We also have Chief Rufus Elor. Thank you, Chief Rufus. Luckily, I think yesterday or today was your birthday, or today is your birthday, Chief Rufus. Happy birthday again. We have our sister Phil Okorafo. Thank you for your presence. We have Elder A.B. Komunumbo. I have introduced him before from the United States. We have Alexandra Wills. Thank you, our sister. We have Dr. Ateke Joshua. Thank you, Dr. Joshua. We have Dr. G.A. Kalio. We have John Urona. We have Engineer Charles Ambawe, former acting president of the Zone National Congress. We have our chairman, who we can see has been on the way, but is creating time to participate in the program. No other person but our very first ambassador, Dr. God knows, Bolade Igali. We want to thank you for providing your presence, though you are on your way home. We want to thank our sister, our daughter, Esther Isaac Adaka Boro, daughter of Isaac Boro. We want to thank you for your presence. We have Elder Regent Yomo, the original peace ambassador. Thank you, Elder Regent. And we have His Royal Highness Ayakeme Whiskey. Thank you. Moderator, if you are back, I want to hand over to you. As I call on our brother, I also introduce our brother, the former president of IYC, Barrister Eric Omari. Barrister Eric, thank you for providing your presence to us. And the person who actually is supposed to do this, that I came in his stead, may I also introduce the guy who chairs the committee that has organized this pivotal conference for us, Dr. The Villager. We call him the Villager online. The Villager, Dr. Bentantua, thank you so very much. This is a beautiful job you have done. Thank you for you and your committee. We also have our sister. She's a panelist. They will get to her. CNN journalist of the year 2003, I guess. My sister, Ibiba Don Pedro, thank you. And I am just admitting Bina Yodowi. And we have a very versatile brother who makes all these things happen from the technical sense, from the policy sense, talking about former president of IYC, Mia Biekromyama, and we have a G guy, Isaac, thank God, who makes the technical part of this work easier for us. We have the convener of the Ijaw Nation Development Group, Dennis Banigo, and we also have the almighty secretary of the IPA, doctor, a medical doctor, not native, please, not a traditional doctor. Dr. Felix Idawaboso is also here. May I bow out for now? I may come back with other introductions later. Thank you. Mr. Chairman. Yes, Mr. Chairman, if you are ready, I would. We can't hear you, sir. So I guess you are muted.
It's on now.
Well, I've unmuted myself now.
Okay, sir. So you have the floor, sir, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, yes, you have the floor, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm quite privileged to participate in this conference, and I believe I came at the right time because you were gracious enough to introduce everybody in the house. And I was able to meet up the guests, the keynote speaker's statement while I was driving home in the car. Let me, at the beginning, apologize. There was a conflict in the program, which shouldn't have been a conflict. I was giving out a daughter in marriage today, and the program was to start at 12 o'clock and finish at about 2 o'clock in compliance with COVID requirements. But as it is in Nigeria, we did not start on time. And it's not one of those events that you can just rush out. So please, I'm terribly sorry. I thought that latest by 3 I would have been back home. Having said that, I would like to congratulate the organizers for this very important conference. It's very important because we're a riparian people and a littoral people, meaning we're people that, as the guest speaker rightly said, people that our life depend a lot on water. So anything that pertains to water is at the very root of our survival and existence as a people. Now, having also made that statement, let me go forward to, in general, since the guest speaker has spoken and the keynote speaker has spoken and guest speaker will speak and people will comment, just to highlight certain things that we should bear in mind when we make our interventions. That is that with regards to this water bill, there are two things. There is the science and the law. The science pertains to the science of water use and all the hydrology that pertains to water. We are part of the River Niger water system. It drains to the ocean through our land. And to that extent, we are affected critically by what happens upstream in the River Niger. With respect to what happens upstream, I'm giving this highlight so when we discuss, we can bear these things in mind. What happens from Futajalan right down to Bayelsa, large part of southern Ijaw local government in Bayelsa, most of it drains through there. 200 billion cubic feet drains every year into the ocean. What happens outside Nigeria is not controlled by the Nigerian government, it's controlled by the Niger Basin Authority, of which we're a member, 9 countries of West Africa. Now, what happens within Nigeria is what the government is now attempting to regulate and control. The points for us to bear in this matter, like I said, there's science and there's law. And I'm happy that Chief Ikoli has highlighted the critical parts of the law, because water is on the concurrent list, federal government and the states. And the federal government wants to extend its power to have more control over the water rights. But for us, we have to be dispassionate and scientific about our approach to this law because we are critically affected by what people upstream do in the water system. If they build dams, if they build big irrigation systems, that is talking about the fresh water. I'm not here talking about groundwater. If they do that, then it can affect how much water supply comes to us. Today, water is not a problem in Nigeria. In fact, like I said, we discharge a lot of the water into the ocean every year. We're not building enough dams. But in other countries, Israel, we know what United States, some parts of Europe, China, is becoming a problem because the water levels have gone down. You know what is happening between Ethiopia and Eritrea. Ethiopia is building some dams, and Eritrea is having issues. But more critically, Egypt is now going to have a lot of difficulty in irrigating their farm because Ethiopia had decided to divert a lot of the water. Now, in our own case, if people upstream in future, maybe in another 30, 40 years, decide that they want to, especially in the north where there's a lot of land for commercial agriculture, if they want to take a lot of the water and begin to do commercial agriculture, how much water comes to us will reduce. In fact, what goes to the ocean will become reduced, and we may have some challenge, like many countries are going to have. And so that's a point. So now, where the only aspect that I want us to look at the science is the fact that if no authority is responsible for regulating how people control water up, it means that any state government can wake up. For example, the Sokoto state government or the Kogi state government or the Kebbi state, all of which are on the River Niger, or even Kaduna state, the main tributary river, Kaduna is on the tributary of River Niger, can decide to take almost the whole water and build dams and so on, and it will affect how much water comes to us. On the other side, if they now have dams and release water until it can flood the area. So to that extent, and I haven't spoken with a few of those in the science of this law, we have to, it is not against our interest if there is some control level so that no state government up can have exclusive 100% right to the water. The water is our right, the water is their right. So if we now say everybody can do what they like up there, it may affect us. So to that extent, we have to interrogate this law to see how the law can be worded in a way that it does not take our rights away as a people, but at the same time regulates, also controls to some extent the right of other people up. They don't deny us. The second part of the law that we don't have any control over, which let's discuss in an informed manner, is groundwater. Nigeria's water is surface water, fresh water, and groundwater. Almost equal quantities. Surface water about 200 standard cubic feet, billion. But then surface water is about 67 billion. So groundwater, I mean. So there is a lot of groundwater that belongs to everybody, to which we don't even know that it exists. And that groundwater is when we drill our boreholes, and when the large water users like Nestle, Coca-Cola, and the other people that use water, take water, the mining companies, the oil companies consume water. They go right down to what is common to all Nigerians. That one, again, because you cannot know exactly which portion of the water is exactly in our own land, we have to have a system, because most of the industries are not in our own side, where people like the Lagos area, they take a lot of water, bottle it and market to everybody. They take a lot of water in the food companies, water that belongs to all Nigerians, and give everybody. The point I'm trying to make in conclusion, in my remarks as we discussed today, and other papers are presented, let us realize that one, the water on the surface What people do up can affect us, and therefore we may not be able, acting on our own as Ijaw people, in the few states where we have, to sufficiently deal with them. So if there's an authority that has some level of control over what everybody does with the water, when it goes outside their state and another state, it is in our own good interest. What is important is the wordings in a way that it does not tie us and deny us, because the water that comes to us, in our case, most of it comes from up, down to us. That is the simple hydrology. Secondly, is the fact that for the water below the ground, which people drill anyhow and industries consume anyhow, if there is no level of control, we do not yet have the big consumption of such water. It is not also in our interest. Therefore, we have to, while we're discussing law and we're discussing the politics of it, the politics being the fact that the government wants to take away everything from us. And now the bad part again, let me just highlight, which is creating alarm, is the fact that when you say, which was not there in the original law they are proposing, but is there now, is by saying that the land, which is 6 kilometers on either bank of the water, will belong to the federal government. That is to say that federal government has to regulate first before you can do anything on that land. That is totally unacceptable, which means that River Avocados, River Non, River Orashi, those ones that pass through our land, we don't have any federal government can expropriate at any time and say we give this to a Roga settlement. So that aspect of land, bringing land in, is totally out of question. I will, if I have the opportunity, I have to fight it because people are presenting papers, and this is a sector I've been involved. I have to fight it not to be able to wait until the end. But these are some preliminary thoughts, and I just want us as Ijaw people to be dispassionate. Let us get some experts. There are some experts who are in the house, maybe not in this place. People like Professor Belgam, who is a former dean of faculty in River State University, still around. Professor, although he's old now, Professor Dagogo Fubara. These are hydrologists, and there are a few other people to look at the science also, so that by the time we Ijaw people make our position, I know Pandef and so on, I'm part of Pandef, and we drafted something, but it's a purely political statement. We have to weigh how our interest lies as Ijaw people in this matter. So I hope I have not caused confusion in the discussion that was going on steadily, but I thought I should highlight the fact that let's not throw away the baby and the bathwater as a people, because there are aspects of the law that are in our interest. And if we, at the end of it, and can be part of the discussions, we have to get some of our scientists who are hydrologists, who are geographers, to look at this law as it affects us as a people, and they'll be able to make an informed position on it. Finally, the governors forum met on Thursday and has agreed that let each state go and look at how the law affects them, and let the attorney generals, let them come together and reply to the federal government. So we have a window of opportunity before they get back to the federal government and before the assembly opens for us as a people to be prepared. So when they open the floor for public hearing, which they are now trying to dodge, and that's where the suspicion comes. Why take it to a committee of the whole house when you brought it under Order 12? Then you want to just take it by the back door. And that is where people are suspicious. But let us get our experts together after this kind of discussion and let them sit down with the lawyers and come up with something that is balanced. I thank you all very much. And if I have the opportunity, I may say one or two things again at the end of the conversation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, sir. Before I yield to our able moderator, may I also, on behalf of Fortune, who is supposed to do introduction in this program because of a few difficulties is going through, may I introduce quickly Architect Ijenta. Thank you for being here. We have Ayibasin Jacob Beredugo. Thank you, Beredigo, for being here. We have our sister Ada Piafi. We have Bolore Opukiri. We have Barrister Soki Soberekon. We have Barrister Efie Bribina. We have Benjamin Sadibo. We have our own president of the Job Professionals Association, Elaye Otrofanowe. We want to thank you for being here. Our sister Eunice Aprela from Atlanta, Georgia, USA, my city. I want to thank you for being here, Eunice. We have Emon Alamene. We have Abi Nanakumo. We have Dr. Letimi Sobijo. We have Barrister Eric Yangbene. We have Engineer Louis Ekio. We have His Royal Highness Engineer Toro, the Ibidawe of Kabowe Clan, Bayelsa State. Mr. Moderator, sir, thank you. I yield to the floor.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. You've done a great job trying to introduce most of the attendees. And I also want to quickly thank the keynote speaker and the chairman of today's event, Ambassador Bola Igali, for those very enlightening presentations. We didn't expect anything less. But Kingsley, we will not let you go so soon. You will have to come back in to introduce the guest lecturer for today. We've already received quite a lot from the keynote speaker and the chairman of today's event, but the main course is yet to be served. And he who is to serve that course is who our brother Kingsley, you have to come back and introduce so that the program can continue.
Is that what you want me to do now? I thought, because I'm looking at the program, it's supposed to be Ann Kubrick's.
Oh yes, a goodwill message before the guest speaker. Oh no, the guest lecture was to follow the keynote address, and but I think it makes sense for us to have our sister Ann Q present her goodwill address before we take the main course. So I would like to, Kingsley, sorry, you will come back to introduce the guest lecturer later, but I think at this moment, let me just yield for our sister and Amazon of the Niger Delta, one who requires very little or no introduction at all, because she has come to embody most of the issues affecting the Niger Delta, from environment to human rights and federalism, restructuring, and so on. So without further ado, welcome Ann Q Briggs to make your goodwill remarks. Isaac T, if you can hear me, please unmute Ann Q.
Annie, we can't hear you at all. Please, can you unmute yourself?
Okay. Am I okay now?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, I said good evening, everyone, and God bless us. Now, I know I was going to say something, but I didn't realize when I was going to say something. I would have thought that maybe after the guest lecture, but all the same, I think that we have heard enough, and Dr. Igali has actually put another perspective on it as far as I'm concerned. I don't know about anybody else, but even at that, it doesn't take away my very fierce position on this issue, on anything to do with the federal government of Nigeria tampering with the rights of Ijaw people and the Niger Delta region as a whole. As most of us who grew up in the communities. It is only us that are giving birth to children that are growing up in Europe and America and the townships of the Niger Delta and Nigeria. People like us, we grew up in our communities, in Abonima, Arugo, Bakana, and all those, Nembe, and all those type of places. So anything to do with water, as far as I am concerned, water, I will argue till tomorrow, belongs to me. So, but of course, there are international perspective to it, because even the first speaker have already mentioned that, which should actually put us on alert as far as the UN is concerned, because the issue of water is a worldwide issue, and it has been brewing for a very long time, that the Third World War may actually originate from issues to do with water. I suppose the second one may have been about resources. We're still fighting the one that we're suffering by people taking control of natural resources that belong to other people. We're not the only indigenous people all over the world, in Venezuela, in South America. People are up till today fighting for control of their resources. So we're not unique. But I believe that from the fact that we have fought and are still fighting, actually, for the injustice that have originated, that have come from the fact that federal government for a long time and through so many constitutions have taken away our rights to our natural resources. After so many years, I think that the responsibility, I won't go into the knowledge of what people like Professor Belgam and people like that will be in a far better position to introduce to us. But I think where I want to come in is that it is our responsibility to take hold of the information that we're getting and do something with that information. Now, what is it that we should do with this information? First of all, water is life. People are trading and getting rich on water that God have given to all of us, like he has given us the natural resources. Fish. A lot of people, Chinese companies, now I hear whether Vietnamese or whatever, other Asian countries have been benefiting from the fish that is very close to Ijaw people and to the riverine people for a very long time. The only benefit I recall that Ijaw people have from the fish, and ugolo and isama and prawns, is just what we eat, really. And billions are made across the world where people have these natural resources, and we're yet to find a way to benefit from that. Now, with laws like what the federal government is proposing again, it's going to take away all this. It's taking away our gas and oil. It's going to take away our water. It's going to take away the land. I do appreciate what Igali said about being dispassionate, but when it comes to a small group of people like Ijaw people and other riverine people having to be dispassionate, if you like, under these type of circumstances, where what the federal government, in my opinion, is doing is a well-planned act that it is taken at a particular time. Now, the fact that we do have a situation where there is an international aspect to it, which is the UN is very interested in how water is conserved and how water is used. It should give us great concern. Now, how do we approach this thing? We need to very quickly sensitize ourselves to the dangers. And I'm happy to get Dr. Gali also saying that the governors of the South states, it may be the first time, but if something comes out of it, that the governors have taken a decision and that they should go back home and sort out how it affects the state. Well, the people that will be most affected, I'm not saying there are no other ethnic nationalities in the states that have access to water and are threatened, but again, the Ijaws will be the most affected in even the states. So the Ijaws, for the first time, the Ijaws have to wake up. If it's not because of oil and gas, for God's sake, let it be because of water. Already, they have taken our air from us. Let me explain how. They've polluted the air. So already we're dying from the pollution of the air. So it won't surprise me if one day there's going to be a bill as to how air is going to be regulated. This is Nigeria. So that there is a bill of how water, for whatever reason, is going to be regulated all over the world, then we should be fighting for how we will survive within this space where everybody is scrambling for water. And where this water is that they are scrambling for is where we are. This water, we are in this water, on top of this water. And so if we are going to consider, first of all, the headsmen and the farmers, because they need water, we also need that water. Yes, the water is there, is for sharing, but wait a minute, the water is where we are. The other people that need this water are going to have to come and take the water where we are. So it is our responsibility today, right now, to begin to protect and defend the future of our grandchildren, because some of us now, it's not even our children anymore. I mean, if you have children that are in their 20s and 30s, they're already fighting, they're in the struggle. So you're not fighting for them, you're fighting for their children. You know, so really and truly, I am most horrified that they're applying, they want to apply systems that can work in countries where there are laws and there are people who must obey those laws. And they want to bring laws into a lawless country. And the people who are driving these laws they want to bring are lawless themselves. And so whichever way you look at it, we have already been victims of lack of development. We're already victims of being looted. We're going to be victims of water being regulated and our land included in, take a place like Abonima. If you say 5 kilometers, the whole breadth of Abonima is not 5 kilometers. So already headsmen can come in and take over Abonima because the land belongs to federal government. So please, this is a very, very serious, this is a very, very serious matter. I don't know how we're going to look at it dispassionately, but I think people like me will just have to try. But it's going to be very difficult because our very lives, existence, is going to depend on what Ijaw people decide to do. Finally, I want to put it like this. Ijaw people must be able to decide, is their survival in Nigeria more important, or is the survival of Nigeria more important to Ijaw people? Kingsley Kuku, you were in one meeting where Isaac Oswaka answered a question that was very similar to this. And he answered it like this. He was asked a question. If you Ijaw people want self-determination, how do you want it? And we told him to say it like this. We want self-determination within or without Nigeria, but we want self-determination. Without that call for self-determination, within or without, Ijaw people do not have a future in which they are going to survive. I'm horrified. Thank you.
Thank you, Ankyo. our very Amazon, yet another great serving. I think we have received sufficient appetizers. In fact, they are like main courses themselves. And this is a good time to go ahead and introduce the main lecturer for today. But before then, I can't help recapping some of what Ankyo has just said. Just one or two lines. Water is life, and already a number of our rights have been expunged or expropriated or extinguished by the federal government. Our fishing rights have been affected already. Even the air that we breathe is polluted. And so, even as the previous speakers had mentioned, the only thing that is left for us that we are depending on, the water, and which is also a source of our identity, is what is at stake here now. So we'll just bear that in mind while I invite Kingsley Kuku to introduce the guest lecturer for today. Kingsley, over to you, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Before I proceed to introduce our guest speaker for today, may I quickly introduce Dr. Ibinabo Ishmael and one of Niger Delta's best, a man who single-handedly has carried the struggle of the Niger Delta on the streets, in the gutters, on the waters, in the rivers of the Niger Delta and Nigeria to greater heights. Super Comrade, I Chief Joseph Eva is here with us. Super Comrade, thank you for providing your presence. I am privileged to be called upon by organizers of this program to introduce a man no mean great. May I read the profile of Professor Benjamin Ogele Okaba. Our guest lecturer for today needs no elaborate introduction. He is a man whose antecedents speak volumes about who he is, a distinguished academic of international repute, an internationally trained organizational leadership expert, an astute administrator, a renowned peace and conflict analyst, a revered Ijaw statesman, and core nationalist. Born on 15th August 1961, Professor Benjamin Ogele Okaba is from Pakiama town in Bomadi local government area of Delta State, Nigeria, Ijaw land. This high intellectual genius, who has gained several academic laurels at home and abroad, started his academic voyage as a pupil of Apapa Baptist School, Lagos, from 1966 to 1970, and completed his primary education at Lord Authority School, Pakiama, where he obtained his first school leaving certificate in 1972. He attended Isenabe College, Bomadi, for his secondary education from 1977 to 1978, and obtained his WASC. In 1986, he gained admission into University of Port Harcourt and graduated in 1989 with a BSc in sociology with honors. He proceeded thereafter to the University of Ibadan for his Master of Arts degree in African Studies in 1991. In 1996, Professor Okaba returned to his alma mater, University of Port Harcourt, for his PhD. He rose to the rank of visiting professor in 2005 and obtained his full professorship in 2007, specializing in environmental sociology, development administration, and the Niger Delta question. Professor Benjamin Okaba has enriched his academic laurels through the acquisition of robust postdoctoral training courses with strong emphasis on development administration, organizational leadership, human resource management, resource diversification, transformational leadership, and peace building from world-class institutions in Africa, in the United Kingdom, and the United Arab Emirates, among which are the University of Oxford, Brunel University of South London, the University of Dubai, and the Kwame Nkrumah Institute of Peace, Accra, Ghana. His professional career has seen him serving in several respected capacities in a university system since 1992. He has served as coordinator and head and member of ad hoc committees and panel, member of governing council, head of department, associate dean, dean of faculty of social sciences, director of the Center of Niger Delta Studies, both at the Delta State University and the Niger Delta University. He has also been provost of the College of Management and Social Sciences, Novena University, and provost, Ole campus of the Delta State University, Abraka, Delta State, Niger Delta. He was the pioneer director of the Institute of Foundation Studies, Federal University Otueke. He is the current dean, School of Postgraduate Studies, Federal University Otueke, Bayelsa State, Ijaw Nation. Professor Benjamin Okaba has also served the nation and the state in various capacities, such as facilitator, coordinator on draft electoral bill, discussant on attitudes on Nigerian democracy and the market, compilation of historical events for National Census 2006, chairman steering committee on House of Representatives, people public debate on the review of the 1999 Constitution, member Delta State Transition Committee on rehabilitation of closed down schools, interim management committee, Delta State School of Marine Technology, Brutu, Delta State think tank at the recent national conference, chairman of the governing council of Delta State School of Marine Technology, Brutu, Delta State, his own land. His experience in active unionism and scholarship has also been demonstrated by his membership of several professional bodies, some of which he has served in leadership capacity, among which are Secretary, Chairman, State Internal Auditor, National Union of Teachers, Vice Chairman, Chairman, ASU, University of Port Harcourt, and current Chairman, Delta State Chapter of the Society for Peace Studies and Practice, SPSP. As a man who is proud of his ethnic nationality, Professor Benjamin Okaba is versed in the Ijaw and Niger Delta history, culture, social dynamics, and the Ijaw struggle for self-determination. Since 1995, he has been actively involved in the Ijaw struggle and served Nigeria in various capacities via the Ijaw National Congress, INC platform. He has served as chief rapporteur at national conventions and conferences and head of ad hoc committees in the NROC and Western Zone. He has equally authored and co-authored several INC and Niger Delta position papers, including that for the 2014 National Confab, Abuja. He is a frontline member of the Ijaw National Congress and a leading contestant for the position of president at the recent 2019 inconclusive elections, actually the leading candidate. Professor Ben Okaba has, to his credit, over 250 published works, wow, and journal articles, and made several public lecture presentations at different local communities, state, national, and international fora, among which consider various aspects of Ijaw history and culture, democracy and good governance, development administration, and the Niger Delta question. Notable among his academic publications and public lectures are Why Nigerians Bury Their Money, which was published in 1997, Oil Industry and the Paradox of Rural Poverty, 2005, Isaac Burroughs' Legacies, Lessons for Sustainable Development in the Niger Delta Region, Burrough Annual Lecture at Kayama, 2010, Youth and Community Empowerment as Building Blocks of Sustainable Peace in Baramatu Kingdom, 2016, The Ijaw Nation and the Development Imperative, 2005, Use Ijaw Language and Culture or Lose It, 2008, by Professor Benjamin Okaba. In recognition of his worthy and impactful contributions and services to humanity, Professor Ben Okaba has received several local and international awards and fellowships. He is also UN Ambassador of Peace. Professor Benjamin Ogele Okaba is married to Mrs. Amaka Okaba, and they are blessed with the peace of the Lord and wonderful children. We welcome Professor to today's meeting and looking forward to hearing a word or two from him robustly to advance the position and cause of the Ijaw people. My name is Kingsley Kemebradi Akuku, a full-blooded Ijaw man, a very proud one. I am prouder today to have been called upon to introduce our guest speaker, Professor Benjamin Ogele Okaba. You're welcome, sir. Have we lost my moderator again? Moderator, sir.
Isaac, okay. Thank you for doing the honors, Kingsley.
Thank you.
Yes. So, Professor Ben Okaba, the floor is yours.
The prof might be having technical problems. So while he's still trying to fix his connections, we might need to skip to the next on the line on the schedule. So he can come back later to take his speech.
Okay, in that case, Isaac T.
Yes.
Okay, in that case, we will go to the next item, but once the guest speaker is back online, we will have to revert to him because that's the main matter for today. I would like to use the opportunity to invite one who has already been welcomed. And in fact, he's on the screen, his face is on the screen right now, a super comrade, Joseph Eva, a great veteran of the Niger Delta struggle, who also embodies the struggle. Joseph Eva, you're welcome to please make your remarks.
Okay, you have to unmute yourself.
Well, congratulations, organizers of this great forum. In fact, this is really wonderful because the governors forum during the week, last week, they told us that they are going to meet and take a decision. So what we are doing today, please, the organizers, put everything together and give it to them that this is the position of the Ijaw people. We are water people. We are not talking about desert law, bill for any desert law. So I want to use this opportunity. We are going to put pressure on our National Assembly members. Our National Assembly members. If the need be, they should walk out of the National Assembly. If they walk out, Nigeria will bow. Nobody should come and give us a presidential bill from Aso Rock in the name of bill. It's an insult. There is no long grammar here. Anything about water. We are water people. Our elders, Chief Ike Clark, Professor Koko, Chief Oxford, and all other elders walk out of the National Constitutional Conference when the Nigerian nation wanted to insult us. They walk out and the conference collapsed. It happened during the government. So what are we talking about? Our elders have shown the way. Anybody that is talking about water is talking about our life. They should come and block the Atlantic Ocean. Is that what they are saying? We should put pressure on our National Assembly members. We have taken a decision. Don't talk anything about water in Nigeria unless we decided to. This is the way we want to do anything being about water. Is our life. We talk with water. Others talk with desert. We talk with fish. Other people talk with Maluna. So we should come up with a statement, give it to all our National Assembly members, and we should hold their ears. We should not allow anybody to insult us before our children. Anything water is Ijaw. Anything water is Niger Delta. That is what is recognized all over the world. So we should take a decision and we should put everything in paper, give it to our National Assembly members. What type of National Assembly members do we have? Compare ourselves with others. If the Southwest is taking decision because of security, what are we doing? This what we are doing now shows that the sleeping lion is now awake. Take a decision, we put this thing and give it to our National Assembly members, House of Reps and our Senate. If they move with this bill, you all walk out. You see it now, the whole nation will be begging us. As far as I'm concerned, that is my goodwill message.
Moderator, sir. Thank you, Super Comrade.
Thank you for
As
the
usual.
opportunity.
As usual, Volcano.
Thank you, Super Comrade Joseph Ever, the inimitable Joseph Ever. And this was part of why we were keeping him towards the end, because when he speaks, he wraps it up in a way that encompasses everything that has been analyzed. So thank you again, Super Comrade Joseph Ever. I would like to now invite the guest speaker, if he's on now, but if he's not, then I would ask Kingsley to please introduce His Royal Highness, the Ibedawe of Kabowe clan, if he's in, to give his goodwill remarks as well.
I admitted the guest speaker very recently, just now.
Okay. Then I think this is the moment that we all have been waiting for, and it is my honor to join my brother Kingsley Kuku, who invites Professor Okaba to deliver the main lecture for today. Prof, you're welcome.
Okay. Good evening, everybody.
What happened?
Hi, Zon.
They are talking about our life.
Don Kemimio.
Emio.
Thank you very much. I feel so humbled.
Don't work out of
This honor
walk out.
given to me by
Those who walk out in the bus,
the organization to present this lecture.
Prof, sorry, let us get Joseph Ever muted. Joseph Ever,
address,
please.
Okay. I'll start again.
No, please proceed. Continue. Kindly continue, Prof.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Thank you very much. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Like I said earlier, I feel elated to give me the opportunity to deliver this guest lecture, which is
Isaac, are you working on the guest speakers?
His network is poor. I think he has a very bad network.
Okay, while we are waiting for the guest speaker to come on again, may I use this privilege and window to introduce our brother, Fafa Dan Prince Will. Uncle Fafa, thank you for your presence. We want to thank you for making time available to be present today. I have a special introduction to make. Among our National Assembly members today here is one very young man. A young man ever since he got to Abuja at that Green Chambers has been doing wonders. He's never been quiet. He's been agitating. He's been promoting the cause of our people. I use this medium to invite, not to actually speak, not to stand, to be recognized. The Right Honorable former Speaker of the Brutu Legislative Council, now member of the House of Representatives, Honorable Julius Pondi is here with us. Right Honorable Julius Pondi, thank you for making yourself available to be with us today. Thank you.
Okay, Isaac T, can you get Professor Kaba back?
And just now he came in very fine.
His internet is really bad.
While that is going on, perhaps we would have to do some quick adjustments and let the program continue.
I just readmitted him again.
Okay.
I think his internet is really.
Yes. Professor Kaba, if you can hear me, the floor is yours. Please continue from where you stopped. Prof, while we're waiting for Prof, Kingsley, is Prof back on?
Yes, I admitted him.
Okay.
He's still having technical problems, so.
Yeah, as a filler, let me just be, Isaac T, please, once Prof is back on, indicate so I can stop. But as a filler, I just want to be highlighting some of the comments and questions that have been raised by attendees.
Okay.
Peter Edu is saying to us that every Ijaw village is situated along banks of rivers and streams, and as such, this water bill that includes littoral lands along these rivers and streams is not acceptable, not at all. We must fight this water bill. It is true that government should regulate water for safe use and cleanliness, environmental issues, but not ownership. Thank you, Peter, for that comment. And then BB's comment is an objection to the phrase, use water for the purposes of subsistence. And this is very important for subsistence fishing. Why subsistence fishing? What constitutes subsistence fishing? Can people sell the fish they catch if it is only subsistence fishing that is allowed under the law as customary rights? I see that our keynote speaker, Anthony George Ikoli, SAN, is back on. He didn't quite finish before we lost him.
Yes.
So if he wants to make any comments while we wait for the guest lecturer, he'll be welcome. If we give a few minutes and guest lecturer doesn't come, I want to exercise my initiative as moderator to invite in a few minutes the panelists who would have discussed the guest lecturer's paper. That is Ibiba Pedro and Womit Idikio. Please be on standby. In a few minutes, we may have to invite you on if the prof is not back.
The SAN seems to be ready to conclude.
Okay, SAN,
hear you. Sorry, sir. So, did you ask me a question, sir?
Yeah. Leonard Silk, Leonard Silk, if you can hear me.
Yeah.
We lost you just before you concluded.
I'm trying to hear you. What's the question, sir?
No, this is an opportunity for you to conclude because we lost you before you concluded.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I said I had some recommendations.
Yes.
They are at from page 13 to 16 of my paper. The paper is already online, and I would recommend participants to take a look at them. Essentially, it says, or it prescribes some kind of articulation of Ijaw position for the legislators to take up. That's essentially what I'm saying. And then I also drew attention to the fact that this is also an opportunity for us to insist on the PAGMI program being extended to the the Ijaw people, in that we would be, if you grant the Northerners, or I don't want to use that word, if you grant people from some section the ability or some right to exploit the gold under their land, you should also extend the same privilege or rights to the Ijaws to also exploit their oil and pay to the center. So that's what I'm saying. There is, like Ellie said, the opportunity is also at the moment possible for us to use this water bill as an opportunity to change the narrative of the Delta. The paper is online. It is sufficiently explanatory of my position in that regard.
Thank you very much.
Well, what if you look at what if you look at what has been said by the Comrade Eva.
Yes, I'm sorry, Professor. Once a call is finished.
Water is life, the water people, and this bill gives us an opportunity to really discover. I don't see the bill as essentially oppressive as such. There are opportunities we can exploit. There are. Well, that's for the lawyers, and I'm waiting for the guest lecturer to give us his expose on all the sections of it. I didn't do that. I just took the bit about federalism and the distortions to it by this proposed bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you very much, Leonard. Yes.
Eniro.
Yes.
Eniro, the guest lecturer is here on my phone. He'll speak through my phone.
Okay, great. Fantastic.
Go on, sir.
Once more, good evening to my fellow Ijaw brothers and lovers of Ijaw Nation. I feel elated that for the honor given to me to express my two thoughts on a very important issue that borders the existence and identity of our people. I've listened to the speech made by the keynote the keynote speaker and other comments, particularly that of Jan. For that reason, we try as much as possible not to replicate some of the salient points we made. And this is a guest lecture. We want to look at the content and context, maybe the character of the Nigerian state in terms of the intent of lawmaking, vis-a-vis the implications of this particular law to our people, the particular law to our people. Therefore, I would like to note that in all climes and human space, lawmaking is predicated on the primary need to guarantee the well-being, safety, and protection of citizens' fundamental human rights against infractions of even individual groups and organizations and also the state. In a democracy has laws that regulate human actions should always be of the people, by the people, and for the people. For all the people, not the section of the country. The state laws should promote freedom of speech, religion, association, survival, including rights of ownership and control of the people's national endowment. The state, therefore, and everywhere in the world, obliged to respect, to protect, to take positive and decisive measures to establish and maintain an enabling environment for unhindered access to citizen human rights against domination, exploitation, molestation, oppression, alienation, and exclusion, as the case may be. Unfortunately, in this country, as many social commentators and analysts have reported, a vast majority of Nigerians, not only just seem not to be comfortable with this position and concern of the present administration in terms of the attitude to protection of lives and property. In addition to violent clashes and reckless denial, violation and abuse of citizens' human rights. In fact, the spontaneous outcry and protest that created recent introduction of the state-sponsored anti-social media hate speech, the companies and allied matters, in fact, integrated payroll and personal information system in university policy. The Water Resources seem to carry an implicit message of safety insensitivity to the client's yearnings and concern for safety, well-being, masses, and the peace and stability of the nation. Now, there are both mentioned policy initiatives that I have just mentioned tend to give undue discretion and impunity to state officials, their cronies and promoters benefactors to further trample on the rights, privileges, operations of religious, professional, civil society groups, local communities, and the common. Now, having given this general background, I want to look at the law, particularly just the section 13, that says that in implementing the principles under section 2 of the Water Resources Bill, the institution also established under the Act shall promote integrated water resources management and coordinated management of land and water resources, surface water, groundwater resources, river basins, adjacent marine and coastal environments, and upstream and downstream interests. Section 2.1 says that all surface water and groundwater, wherever they occur, is a source thing common to all people. Now, there are both contentious clauses and others based on challengeable power to own and control water bodies wherever found in this country by the federal government. By implication, also, citizens of the riverine communities, coastal communities, could seek federal government permission to be able to drill or even fish ponds in their homes and engage in commercial agriculture along riverbeds. Furthermore, the bill empowers federal government to allow people from within and outside the country to move into the coastal regions and possess water resources, without the consent of the local communities and aborigines. Insofar as federalism is about the sharing of powers and functions between the center and the producing units in a manner that each constituent is constitutionally empowered to suffer, own, control, and manage the resources within our territorial jurisdiction and contribute an agreed percentage of the value of these resources to the center, to the center. The Water Resources Bill is all intent and purpose to cleanse the nation from the basic principles and spirit. That the federal government of Nigeria will muster the air country in the midst of these ethno-religious agitation for resource control, restructuring, fiscal federalism, separatism, to close this ill-fated volume of the lack of seriousness that attaches to genuine complaints of the citizens. We will appreciate this fact against the background of that the Water Resources Bill is a rebranded version of the Ruga policy designed to grab those ancestral settlements and resources to set up reserves and capital colonies to inadvertently address the challenges of desertification, terrorism, insurgency, and other clandestine Fulani nomadic interests without recourse to how these impacts negatively on others. This poses yet another worry about the status of federalism. The bill, if allowed to pass into law, shall violate basic ethos of democracy as it pertains to the appropriation of the customary powers and functions of the state governor to hold land and water resources in trust for the people of the state. We already have protests to the Oil Minerals Act with respect to issuance of licenses and environmental mismanagement. We must note that major conflict and wars that ensued in modern and ancient historical epochs have their origin in disputes over land and associated resources, drawing from the African Ijaw, Southern Kaduna, Borno, Katsina, and other areas involved by interstate landlord-herdsmen violent conflict. This bill will surely give these stranger elements unfettered access under state illegal protection in trade the land, adjoining creeks, springs, dams, lakes, lagoons, coastal precincts, over the years being the only source of livelihood of the local. For sure, this incursion will be resisted by the local with their last blood. I won't agree with many commentators who view this bill as a recipe for disaster, because the crisis and the bloodshed that the Water Resources Bill will cause is more devastating than anyone can imagine. I repeat, the Aborigines will not sit down, watch their taken away by faithless and disgusting countries. They will put off a fight that might be endless. I also support the view that the protagonists and proponents of the Water Resources Bill are the real enemies of Nigeria's national unity, stability, peace, and prosperity. Their desperation to push through the bill, this self-seeking regulatory bill from the back door a second time. Our fall pay the first time must be checked by true Nigeria and lovers of democracy. Now, talking about the impact of the bill on the geography, must note that Ijaws are the fourth largest ethnic nationality and the dominant group in the Niger Delta. They are the most ancient origin autochthonous indigenous of the Niger Delta. Ijaws occupy the most entire region, coastal belt of Nigeria. They have large community city original settlements in Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa Delta, Edo, Ondo, Rivers State, Nigeria. It is important to know that water and its associated marine resources means everything to typical Ijaw man. Its major occupation, fishing, game production, canoe building, business coastal farming, etc., are all aqua dependent. In fact, water is synonymous to air. Water is synonymous to air. Ijaw man, movement of the water resources around her can be likened to pulling a fish out of the river onto a dry land and eventually die off. Worst case, due to government insensitivity, negligence, and marginalization of our environment, that result in lack of basic amenities for safe and sustainable livelihood. Locals will drink from this water, and sometimes they take to the same water. By the deities and other spiritualities. Our marine base, graves of the dead, are dogs and liquid where the Ijaws and other coastal dwellers in and outside the Niger Delta, living in similar circumstances where the life dependent on water will cope or react to the provisions of the water resources that touches on the essence of their existence, identity, and survival. Passing the bill amounts to deliberately undermining the right Ijaw people's right to life. By the summation, this vexatious and progressive bill will rather create more hardship, violent clashes, and stress the just struggle for self-determination and self-actualization beyond the control of you and I. In conclusion, I want to say that it's obvious that the professors of this satanic bill are conscious of its implications. Those who are pushing the bill, they know it is evil to some persons. They might be testing our collective and individual willpower or resolve to resist its passage and eventual implementation. They might also be leveraging on the lack of cohesion and selfishness of the leaders of the affected areas, who in the past have mortgaged the development of their constituents in return for favor and recognition to further their inordinate political ambition. The warning signals from the visa on arrival policy, when the president made that policy, the massive surplus movement of Fulani during the COVID-19 restrictions in connivance with state security consent, and the clandestine approach adopted in the processing of this bill are visible, audible, and audacious enough for people from Eastern Nigeria, Southern Nigeria, the Middle Belt, and all coastal communities across the country to rise and their rights now before the legislators in the Senate and House of Representatives, ministers, governors, civil society groups, the academia and youth bodies, the above mentioned domains to desensitize. This body should go beyond condemning, should sensitize and mobilize to be able to galvanize support to resist the passage of this bill. It is also important to remind the federal government of its primary constitutional responsibility to its citizens, which is to protect, guide the fundamental human rights, citizenry, and promote their welfare and well-being. It is very sad to know that under a democratic dispensation, that should be people-centered, the state is getting violence by treating a section of the country as sacred cows and others are difficult. This is what the water resources bill represents and must be withdrawn immediately. Now, like I said earlier, I am more interested in looking at the context of the bill. Yes, in an advanced democracy, certain things are regulated. But we are dealing with a situation in Nigeria where to be law-abiding is punishment. It's criminal to be law-abiding. So remember what has happened to other resources, petroleum resources, land resources, etc., etc. The government of the state cannot be trusted with any form of regulation. In fact, whatever Nigerian government has regulated in the past has been so this is time where all this bill, no. Say no to the person because allowing this bill to be passed would mean it's like educating us out of it. It's like saying we are not used to it. Okay, something happened in Patema recently, the Modi Patema recently. Before we knew it, the land that was 200 plus of land bought over by some persons. They had the bill of rights and it's signed within and we're told that it was for a right, but from the story, the investigation of the entry ground of settlement of Fulani, we know that they are already in the creeks, and this thing, Mike, they are in the creeks, they are bushes, forest, so they just need this thing that they can come in and take over what does not belong. And for me, for a country that lost, because I was wondering that the owners of the land wants to fight. They will fight. Because if you don't fight, whether you fight that. So it's better to resist the so government should be careful. Be careful in the passage of this thing. And we're talking about some form of regulation, some of water coming from one side. For me, that argument does not work in the context of the Nigerian thing, which does not actually mean well. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Okay, it's done.
Professor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Benjamin Ikaba. Even though, like me,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
sure quite a few people did not hear everything clearly. But, I want to also use the opportunity to thank Denzel Amagbe Entebbe for coming up with that brilliant idea of connecting Professor Ikaba by telephone. Not very smooth, but we assure everyone that the papers will be shared. All the papers that have been presented here, Professor Ikaba's paper, Anthony George Coley, SAN's paper, and every other paper that has been presented here. I would go on to add that if the chairman of today's event, Ambassador Igali, will be kind enough to note some of the very enlightening comments that he made, we would take that and share as well to all attendees. We are pressed for time, and so we would like to move straight ahead to the panelists who have been waiting, and I would go ahead to just read the citations introduce both panelists, Ibiba Don Pedro and Womet Idikio. So starting with Ibiba. Ibiba is a journalist and author, editor of the very enlightening Candor magazine. She is also publisher of National Point, a weekly newspaper set up in 2007 by activists and public interest journalists to provide deep reporting of the Niger Delta people. She is a passionate, unapologetic advocate of self-determination of the Ijaw Niger Delta. Don Pedro, a multiple international award-winning journalist, was declared CNN African Journalist of the Year 2003. At a breakfast meeting in the course of the CNN African Journalist Award, Ibiba was chosen to present a media plaque to Nelson Mandela, the Madiba himself. She has won numerous media awards for her work investigating environmental issues, including the deleterious impact of oil and gas exploitation on the life support systems of women and other community members in the Niger Delta. She holds a master's degree in mass communications from Leicester University, where she was a Shevlin scholar. Ibiba began, I'll cut some of it, and I'll just go towards the end. She is currently engaged in efforts to document the Niger Delta, exploring various forms of infotech as well as film. She is a lifelong learner, loves music and dance, and believes that an oppressed people facing extinction have a right to ensure their survival by any means necessary. She is the author of several books on the Niger Delta, a 9th Fellow of the 9th Science Journalism Fellowship of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Cambridge, USA, where she focused on ecosystems research, science and technology, and development. Ibiba is a proud daughter of Woyingi and markswoman in handling ukulele. Now, from Ibiba, I move to Womit Jones Idikio, a legal practitioner of 30 years post-call experience. He's the Director General of the Inagua Chamber of Commerce, Industry, Mines, and Agriculture, and also the founder of the AFTA Roundtable, that is the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement Roundtable, a gathering of continental subject matter experts on international trade and development, finance, etc., providing advisory and critical interface between continental policymakers and businesses on the African Continental Free Trade Area. His background is in oil, gas, marine and maritime, petrochemicals, and trade advisory. He served as Group Company Secretary, Legal Advisor of Royal Marine and Space, managers of MT Tuma. We all would remember the vessel MT Tuma, and NNPC PPMC Strategic Product Storage offshore tanker. So to Ibiba and Womit, I say welcome on behalf of all the attendees. We have had a fairly long program already, and both of you are key to the further discussion of the subject. And so I'd like to go straight away to let Ibiba have the first bite, and then Womit will follow. Ibiba, please.
Thank you very much. Can Womit just start a bit? I'm just trying to adjust my power issues. I'm just on the computer's battery, but I'm going to have light back on in the next 2 minutes or so.
Okay, that is fine. That is fine. Professor Okaba mentioned the concept at the end of his program, the context, and we know the context in which we're all operating. So, Womit, please, welcome to give your presentation or your treatment.
Okay, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good evening. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Nero. I'd like to pick up from where Professor Okaba stopped. He mentioned something about context, and that is very true. In the country as we are today, the context is by far more important for our own, for our deconstructing of the Water Resources Bill. I'd like to say two things, first of all. Number one is that we all realize, and it should be at the very depth of our spirit, that water is a resource. And then secondly, that the content of the Water Resources Bill is a reflection of the context in which we find ourselves today in Nigeria. Having said that, I'd like to put a few things in context like this. I'm also trying to borrow from what Dr. Igale had talked about. At this point, I do not think that the hydrology of Nigeria's water resources is a problem. it is more about the law of it than the science of it. Now, Nigeria is part of the world. And don't forget, there are about 276 hydrological formations, water formations that are transboundary, for which Nigeria also shares a part. 5 of those hydrological zones Nigeria shares with most of the countries around us. Now, if you look also, I'm trying to pick on the science so that we can properly, situate the legal part of it. Again, there are 13 reservoirs and man-made lakes in Nigeria. Only one of them, which is the Kainji Lake Reserve, is natural. All the rest are man-made reservoirs. All of them but 2 are situated in the southern part of Nigeria. What do water reserves and what do natural and what man-made lakes do? They are put in place to ensure that there is all-round water provision, or availability rather, to the people who live within the catchment area. Now, let me bring us back to the long title of the Water Resources Bill, and it says quite a lot, and I think that we should be able to situate some of the words and capture our situation from that. And it says it's an act to establish a regulatory framework for the water resources sector in Nigeria, provide for 1, the equitable, and 2, sustainable, again, development, management, use, and conservation of Nigeria's water resources. But then if you go to section 1, under part 1, it talks about the objective of this bill is to ensure that the nation's water resources are protected, used, developed, conserved, managed, and controlled. I'd like to let us know that the key word for my own purpose there is control. Now, how do you control water? Again, let us go back to section 2 of the Act, and it says something like this, which is the vesting provision. It says the right to use, management, and control of all surface water and groundwater affecting more than one state pursuant to section 64. So we see that the reason or the power behind the National Assembly in coming up with this bill is predicated primarily on item 64 of the exclusive legislative list of the Constitution. But then I'd like to underline again the operative word there so that we know in context what we are talking about. It says, pursuant to item 64 of the exclusive legislative list in part 1 of the second schedule to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now here is the operative word, as amended and as set out in the first schedule to this bill. It is vested in the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to be exercised in accordance with the provision of this bill. Now, have we all taken a look, for instance, at what item 64 talks about? Item 64 does not give the National Assembly the authority or the right to legislate on the use of water resources. It talks about regulating water that affects several states at the same time. So it is the flow and what we do to interrupt the flow. It does not talk about the use of water specifically. And so I want us to situate this discussion in that regard. That is my position, that item 64 of the exclusive legislative list does not grant the authority to the National Assembly to legislate on the use or the control of water. Then again, if you look at the act, the way it, or the bill, the way it is structured, it seeks to take away the rights of littoral states, not just littoral states, also riparian states. But then we must delve into what the water rights of, take for instance, the Ijaw people are. If you are a riparian state, or even an individual or a community, and you are situated along the banks of the river, what rights do you have? These rights are not legislated upon, they are natural rights that go with your situation beside the riverbank. And so, under law, the right of a riparian state or community is not, it owns the land under the river from the bank to the central point of that flowing river or stream. And that is the international law regarding riparian rights. Now, assuming that there is a community on this side and on the other side, it means that the community owns the land underneath the water and has access to use the water as, its situation. Then again, for littoral states, or let's talk about groundwater, for instance, the hydrology of Nigeria is not in doubt, like I said earlier, meaning even the bill states specifically how many hydrological zones are in the country. There are about 7 or 8 of them. And they are known where they are. The volume of water underneath is specific. Now let us go back to the context in which we are talking about all of this. Why are they bothered about legislating on the use and control of water? Now, we are not strangers to the fact that up north, the hydrological zones are depleted, and that is causing the drought and all of that. You see, in normal circumstances, these are not issues that are a problem, because all over the world, there are many states and nations that are suffering from this same problem. Rather than innovate, we are seeing a situation where natural rights, fundamental rights are legislated away from the communities that are affected, that live within these areas. And again, let's take instances. For instance, in Florida, what they have tried to do is to create what they call aquifer recharge and recovery techniques. Why are we not doing that in Nigeria? The aquifers underneath the ground are known. If they are depleted, there are seasons where there is abundance of water during the rainy season, for instance. That is the purpose of the reservoirs that you have all over the north. Now, when there are waters collected within the reservoirs, what happens? These waters are re-injected back into the aquifers, and they provide water during the seasons where there would have been lack, or there would have been drought or depleted flow or use of water. And I think that we need to situate these things in this format to understand the real reasons why the Water Resource Bill is inimical to the well-being and, in quotes, the survival of the Ijaw people as a nation. I'd like to stop here and then probably take it up from some other point. Thank you very much.
Okay. Should I go on? Should I go
yes,
on?
Yes, Ibiba, I think you can go on. Womet, thank you for that.
Okay. Okay. I'd like to take up from several perspectives, focusing on Professor Okaba's presentation. Unfortunately, I lost quite a bit of his presentation you know, due to a lot of background noise and all of that. But at the end of at the center of his concerns are issues of the lack of the absence of proper the practice of true democracy in Nigeria. As a people, that is the Ijaw people and the Niger Delta people who are our neighbors and who share the same water-based ecosystem as we do. Ordinarily, there shouldn't be a problem, but we're here talking, we're here agitating, we're here campaigning for a return to the practice of true federalism, which is captured as a centerpiece of Professor Okaba's presentation. Professor Okaba spoke with deep concern from the bits that I got about the deleterious consequences if the Water Resources Bill presently being debated at the House of Representatives due to go to the Senate if we don't put a stop to that move, for the reason that it removes ownership rights and control over water resources, which are natural resources, from the Ijaw people. Just like we've already experienced with the loss of control over minerals, over land, captured in the 1969 Act and then the 1978 Land Use Bill. Professor Okaba also drew attention to the untoward, very scary developments during the COVID-19 pandemic, when truckloads of young men from the, whether of Fulani or other northern ethnicity, were pouring into the east of Nigeria, into the eastern region, the southeast and the Niger Delta. And it was a cause for real concern, because people were wondering why under a lockdown, there was this shift, this kind of a sort of a coordinated shift of people who are Nigerians like we are currently, but whose movement presented a threat to us as a people. The reason for this is not far-fetched. Ordinarily, a bill like the Water Resources Bill should not be a cause of consternation, a cause of fear, a cause of dread among the Ijaw people. But for the surreptitious way it is being introduced, if we all remember, this same bill was introduced, was it in 2016 and 2017? And I remember so many of us expressed concern. And then it was somehow thrown to the dustbin by the actions of a few people, including people like Senator Goswell Akpabio. It is interesting that this same bill is being given life, reactivated, and brought and sort of being forced down our throats. I guess that's the main reason. Otherwise, I mean, we are a part of a country of different ethnicities. There will be issues, there will be all sorts of challenges. People will push all sorts of positions. But if these things are done in a very transparent manner, there will be no cause to fear. At the end of the day, like what happens in the National Assemblies, people, lobby positions for their people. People come to agreement. It's more of a give and take thing, where perhaps legislators from the Niger Delta, the South, concede some position to legislators from, say, the North or other parts of the country. But in this situation, I'm shocked, like we all are, that we are not the voices of where is this resounding voice of the Niger Delta, of the Ijaw legislators in the House of Reps? We can't hear anything. all we hear are sound bites from very arrogant statements from people like the chairman of the Water Resources Committee, Honorable Sada Soli, who is from the Ijaw Federal Constituency in Katsina. In the course of doing my research on this paper, the last I read about him was him saying the Water Resources Bill was a done deal. And I'm asking, where is the counter narrative from my own representatives, the Farah Dagogos, the Boma Goodheads, all the other people, the Mutu Nicholas, who are Ijaw people, and other Niger Delta people, whose lives are being threatened by this bill. Another thing that came out of Professor Okaba's take actually dovetails into what our senior advocate, Anthony George Ikoli, the point he made. And that is the point that for the first time, what we're doing really is actually starting from the back. What we're doing today ought to be part of, if we had a proper federal system, what we're doing this evening should have been done 10 years ago or a few weeks ago before they say if there was going to be a reintroduction of the Water Resources Bill. We should have been brought in as community people to have a say on what we feel, our position. But nothing, like we say, nothing spoiled. We're still in position to meet. I remember while taking a couple of notes, while looking at Judge Anthony's paper, I was actually asking myself that I hope when this conference this evening begins, we'll be able to get enough number of Ijaw and other Niger Delta House of Reps members and say senators, because we have gone on for years, you know, like Professor Okaba mentioned, the leadership deficiency in everything we do. The political leadership is missing. We are here as private individuals who are Ijaw people, who are Niger Delta people, in addition to the people we've invited to be part of this meet. We are concerned people. So where are our representatives? I just got to know Honorable Julius Pondi, who has been actually very involved with the Water Resources Bill. Last year, a group of us under the Ijaw Women's Connect came together to take a position to seek to study, to understand what the bill is all about. And we remember, you know, reminding ourselves we have to liaise with people like Julius Pondi, who is involved in what's happening around the bill. Be that as it may, at the end of the day, I think for us, the key points from Professor Okaba's paper is the fact that we have every reason to fear, and we need to speak up. We need to take a position. I will also still coming from the position of Judge Ikoli about us sitting down to dialogue about the Ijaw leadership and the Niger Delta leadership question, but more importantly, the Ijaw leadership. As a member of the Ijaw Elders Forum in Lagos, we came up with a code of ethics and conduct for Ijaw leadership, because we know we talk about all this deficiency all the time. We meet as a people. At the end of the day, we come up with communiques, we come up with documents that end up abandoned somewhere in somebody's office. The way forward this time, because like my sister Ankyo mentioned, we've been denied rights over the purity of air that we're supposed to breathe in. Our air, the atmosphere is filled with soot. I live in Port Harcourt. The atmosphere is filled with soot. We have stress from cancer. We've lost ownership right over our land. We have no business sitting quiet, sitting pretty, and accepting to lose our riparian rights, customary rights over the water. There's no question of us accepting a situation where about, is it six
I've forgotten how many the exact measurements Ambassador Igali mentioned that is supposed to, that wasn't part of older bills that I read up to last year, but I've been introduced into this new bill about us losing certain portion of, you know, the land bordering our waterways. Should not accept that. Nigeria is supposed to be a federal system, and I would like to remind us of what a federal system is about. You know, from the paper presented by Anthony Georgi Poli. I note the apt definition of a federal state by Professor Ben Nwabweze, who noted in his book, The Constitutional Democracy in Africa, Volume 4. Federalism is an arrangement whereby governmental powers within a country are shared between a national, countrywide government and a number of regional, that's a territorial localized governments, or as equal, please remember, please note this, as equal in capital letters, EQUAL, in capital, as equals in status as government in such a way that each of the national and regional governments exists separately and independently from the others and operates directly on persons and property within the territorial area of its jurisdiction, with a will of its own and its own apparatus for the conduct of its affairs, and an authority in some matters exclusive of others. There's no way we can accept the incorporation of our rights, our ownership and riparian rights to water, to the use of water, the way we think fit, you know, under a federal system. We've already lost what we've lost. We're battling those ones, and this has to be another battle in the fight to regain our autonomy, to be a self-determining people and region in Nigeria. There's no way we can end this discussion without acknowledging the fact that the Water Resources Bill presents a further distortion of Nigeria's federalism, which exists in breach, which has existed in breach increasingly in the last 20 years since the return to democratic, to civilian governance, I beg your pardon. We need to work to make sure that we are not decreed or laws are not enacted that concern us and our unborn generations to a life of servitude in a land in which we are aborigines, but far older than peoples who just came in only yesterday into a contraption put together by the British, not of our own will. At the same time, I must also reiterate the reality that our forefathers, you know, in the 40s and 50s, engaged, were part of all the discussions, all the dialogue. My focus has been on the absence of dialogue. That's why we're having this discussion. Our forefathers engaged in dialogue along with other ethnic nations. Nigeria is supposed to be a federalism of ethnic nations, of which the Ijaw people are one, the Urhobo people are there, the Ogoni people, the Ikwere people, the Tiv people, the Jukuns, all ethnic groups, the Hausa people, and then the latest entrance into Nigeria, the Fulani. I think we need to get back to that, but we cannot do that speaking at cross purposes. We need the whole essence of observing democratic governance is for us to speak through our representatives. I can't hear my own representative from River State, from the federal constituency to which I belong. I know that none of you has a representative speaking up, and we need to ask ourselves why this is not happening, and we need to push this beyond this conference of this evening to take a position and follow up on that. I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ibiba. Thank you so much, Ibiba, for that very lucid and very pungent presentation that you've made. Ibiba has provided perspective by reminding us of what happened during the lockdown, the coronavirus lockdown, where we all saw a very unusual migration of people in their numbers from the northern part of the country, and how soon after this bill is coming back to the National Assembly. She also touched on what I would consider the star part of our presentation, which is that the chairman of the relevant committee in the House of Reps boasts that the bill is a done deal. Now, that is one narrative, and she's challenging us with the question, where is the counter narrative from the Niger Delta? Where is the voice of our own representatives in the National Assembly? I would like to use this moment to introduce, to recognize His Royal Highness, the Ibedawe of Kabowe clan, who was meant to also give a short goodwill message. If he's on, I would like to invite him to quickly do that and to keep it within 2 minutes, please, because we're really pressed for time now. There has been quite a wealth of insights on this matter. And all I can say at this moment is that we're going to put all the papers and presentations together and make them available to all attendees. So, Your Royal Highness, the Ebedawe of Kabowe clan, if you are on, please, you have 2 minutes. Try to keep it strictly to 2 minutes so that we can then move on to the comments and questions and answers segment of this program. Thank you.
So, moderator, sir.
Yes.
So, yes. While we are waiting for him, Mr. Moderator, I crave your indulgence to permit me within 1 or 2 minutes to introduce Mr. Pius Adam, Mr. Eugene Abels, Mrs. Rosemary John Odone, Sene Stanley Galaimi, Zina Berry from the United States, Luke Attili, Deborah Dane Habe, Daniel Yeri, Daniela Macri, and Dr. Akoboju Eroju. You are all welcome to this program. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Kingsley, for doing the honors, as always. And we had some very interesting names mentioned there. So, Your Royal Highness, if you are available, you have 2 minutes, but if you're not, then I think we will have to move on to the comments, questions, and answers segment, which is a very important part of the program and indeed of any program, because you had a few of our presenters remind us that one of the things lacking in concerning this bill is public consultation, participation of people. And within the context of this program, the public is the attendees. So we need to have the attendees' views, comments, and questions. So in the absence of His Royal Highness, the Bedawe of Kabowe clan, I believe we can move on to get questions and comments, which we will appeal to everyone to please keep to a maximum of 2 minutes. If you can do less, the better. May I advise that we've received quite a number of lectures, and so we would like, for the sake of time, we would like to keep this to questions. And if there will be comments, then they must be very short comments, please.
Okay, is that with me, Ade? Go ahead.
Okay.
Ade, please.
Okay. Thank you. If I'm more than 2 minutes, just stop me and I'll stop. I think that first of all, there are 2 major issues. The principle that we must look at in taking even legal decisions, before you attempt to take a legal decision. The jurisprudence of any legal decisions is that it serves the interest, the preservation of a people, whether that people is Ijaw or whether that people is in the aggregate of nationalities of Nigeria. That law must respond to a real issue that concerns those people. Anything short of that is an attempt to distort and create crisis in the environment when you do not consider that. So what really affects people is ecology. Basically, what we are dealing with is ecology, and that's the foundation of what we are going to think of as law. Whether you want to look at ecology from its three perspectives, the physical or natural ecology, river basins are drying up, climate change is happening everywhere and all that. And so how do you respond to all of that in the context of people, the social context, which is the social ecology. And social ecology brings us to the issue of the politics and the economics of things, and so on and so forth. Then, of course, I mean, we've raised the issues of identity, which is the deep ecology, our spirituality, our essence, and so on and so forth. These are the foundations upon which anything we engage with must address. We must address these issues. And in a natural system, self-preservation is the first thing. The moment you fear that somebody is unwilling within the deep ecology to respond to your fears, your concerns, that what you do is stop the person before you begin to talk. It can never be a question of hydrology at this moment. This is why some of us say the context must be looked at before you begin to think of whether there are hydrological issues, which to me are, while I would differ to the robust knowledge that Egali brings on board in these experiences, we need to first stop these people, stop them, tell them, look, stop. Let us begin to talk on how this affects me and you before we begin to take laws. You don't come there, create a federal system, a concocted federal system, impose it on us. You've taken oil, you now want to take water plus land adjacent to the law, and you think we shouldn't first stop you? And then you want to turn that to a technical issue of hydrology, damming, and so on and so forth, that we should consider that first in doing that. It is not a moral question. It is a survival question. We want to live and cohabit with you in a federal system. So the fundamental issues you've breached, the very fundamental basis for us to exist as a people, you've breached, which is our federalism. So fundamental rights are breached, stop them. That's my own most important comment. If you have breached the fundamental rights, stop it. And then let's begin to talk about how we can deal with those fundamental questions of our survival and our federalism before we begin to look at the technical concerns. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Miabie. Thank you, Miabie, a resource person in his own right. Thank you for that very eloquent contribution.
Thank God.
His Royal Highness is back, so I'd like to yield to him to make a few comments, and also to put Honorable Julius Pondy on cue, because he's a member of the National Assembly, and I'm sure that we all would like to hear his perspective. Your Royal Highness, please. The Ebedawe of Kabowe clan. I thought we were back on. If His Royal Highness is not available, then I think we would have to invite.
Is it raining?
Yeah. Isaac T, do we have a problem? I'm losing audio. Are you hearing?
Are you hearing me now, please?
Yes. Yes, I can hear you now. We can hear you now.
Okay. The first thing, I think I agree with almost all that has been said against this bill, because one of the things I think that is going to surface at the end of the day is that we're all going to be slaves. And it will get into a situation where you can be relocated from your communities any day, anytime, without any prior notice.
And we should also note that the Niger Delta is almost below sea level. Almost every part of the Niger Delta is below sea level. All our communities, like Anne pointed out, are just by the river banks. So we are going to lose control of these communities. We're going to lose control of our waterways. And then, by and large, our ancestral lands are going to go too. So I think it will do everything possible to make sure that this bill does not go anywhere. Thank you so much. And thank you for those of you who are good. The Ijaw National Development Group, thank you for this, and hope that you follow up after now to ensure that this bill does not see the light of day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Royal Highness. That was a very important perspective for us because while we all have locus as citizens and as indigents affected to take positions on this matter, it's also very important that we have someone like you who represents the authority of our communities to express such a position. Thank you. I would like to invite Honorable Pondi. I'd like to give him the opportunity to take the first shot before we let other comments and questions, if he's available. Honorable Julius Pondi.
The moderator, sir.
Yes.
I beg of, yeah, I beg of another 1 minute. He should be on his way, but while you are waiting for him, I also want to recognize Barrister Joseph Ateki. Barrister, thank you. We have Preo Griki, we have Upuwilo Ayitu, we have Tengi Georgie Koli, we have Vivian Braid, we have Frank Tietie, we have Barrister Dotmi Taware, one of the brains behind this conference, and we have Dr. Akpos Onduku from the United Kingdom. Thank you.
Thank you. If Julius Pondi is ready, we'll take him, but if he's not, the floor is open. We may not be able to take all comments, all questions. I'm sure that everyone is gearing up for some comment or question, but please forgive us. We'll just take a few and move on with the rest of the program to conclude. Thank you.
Yeah, Doctor, you have the floor. Dr. Gali.
Okay, thank you very much. Just a second, let me unmute. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry, I have to crave your indulgence because I have another meeting in which I'm a keynote presenter. It started, but I was expected to come up about 7:15. Now, I want to make a few general comments. I believe that this has been a brilliant conversation on something that is at the heart of our survival as a people. And the position that we've all taken, the level of PANDEF and in different groups, the Nigerian leaders of Southern Nigeria Middle Belt has been to resist the bill, particularly the surreptitious manner in which it has been introduced into the National Assembly, this National Assembly, and taking it to the level of committee of the whole House to undergo third reading. And I agree with everybody, all the comments made, to resist it, and that is a position that we have taken at that larger level. However, I want the generally, I'd like to caution our Ijaw people as a people that the positions we take on national issues, there must always be a fallback position. In dealing with issues of this nature, there must be a fallback position. The Nigerian Federation has been fundamentally distorted. The 1960 Constitution, which was a product of 10 years of studious and patient negotiation from the Ibadan Conference of 1950 up to 1960, has been distorted fundamentally. 1979 Constitution, 1999 Constitution are military contraptions in which federalism, which was agreed in 1954, has totally been abandoned. So we are now dealing with a situation where everything that belongs to us has been taken. Now, we must continue to maintain robust activism as we are doing, and also robust capacity to negotiate and to discuss in an informed manner. We cannot abandon Part B and take only Part A. For example, this bill, all groups have resisted it, and there could be a possibility that the bill is introduced and public hearings are made where contributions are made to discuss the bill. We have members of National Assembly that we are mentioning here, and we have lampooned them for not performing. But we also have to be able to arrive at informed positions in which you can tell them, look, this is our position. So when you go, if eventually a bill has to be passed, this is what should be passed and not what has been presented. For example, there are obnoxious areas of this bill that are totally unacceptable. And like the last speaker or somebody said, no, the second but last speaker is Biba, Don Pedro, the cat is being put before the horse. These are things that should have been discussed ab initio. There is a National Council on Water in which every state commissioner of water is a member. These things should have been presented and they discussed and consult. And not one day you jump up and bring a bill. But the point there is that I respect our views. Look, some of you may not know, some of us were at the very forefront of activism. And it will be shocked if you know some of the things we did before we are where we are. But we must always also take informed positions. If you say bullshit to hydrology, bullshit to what the experts can say, let's just resist, I don't agree with you. We cannot always say, look, people have to also sit down and reason and say, okay, let us get informed position. So I want to appeal, whether we are talking about the future of the Nigerian Federation, what the extreme view, let's get out of this country. It is the best thing to do. Let's be on our own. But if we remain in the country, how best can we get out of this country? Therefore, we have to take positions. I author the South position on restructuring. I author the Ijaw position on restructuring. And I'm proud of those documents. I've shared it with Ikoli, I've shared it with Amagbe, because even in the present context, in which constitutional amendment is coming up, and I think it should be useful information to all of you. When Charles Ambawe presented and mentioned, we have an Ijaw position made up of some of the most prominent Ijaw people, and our tax to write the Ijaw position. I've shared it with a few people for us to make input and be ready. So in case other ethnic nationalities are putting up their position, we the Ijaws to have a position. But if we say, no, we don't want to participate, so a judge should not even take a position, then we are not being right. We are not being fair to ourselves or our representatives. Because members of the National Assembly will benefit from the knowledge. So I will still want to appeal to you people that let us put forward our position. We resist this bill. That is our position. That's the position of PANDEF. I am one of the main people in PANDEF who've taken a position. Leaders and leaders of Southern Nigeria, that's our position. But at the same time, I'm aware the Igbos are looking at the bill, studying it studiously. The Yorubas are looking at it. So we just cannot say, no, get out. No, we have to discuss, we have to take reasoned position on issues as a plan B in case the floor becomes open to say, okay, let us come to take part in discussion. So I thank you very much. I'm sorry I have to leave for another meeting, because in about 9 minutes time, I was expected to say something. And if you can permit me, if there are comments and they are sent to me, I'll be able to respond individually. I'll post my email address so that people can respond and interact. And if we need one or two of these experts, maybe the experts in diaspora, the legal experts, people like Okaba that know a bit of the sociology of the social impact of these things, and maybe the people that deal with, who are water resource experts, that deal with how best they, look, sorry, let me take one, some years ago.
Ambassador, hello? Oh no, we've lost him.
There was a platform that created dealing with flood issues. Flood is a problem people have, but some countries have dealt with flood better. And these are things that we have to get people to study. And at that time, I remember some people said, no, we don't want experts to study anything. We just will resist any effort on flood. And so, no, we have to have experts. If Ijaw people have knowledge, a person like President Fubara was in NASA, one of the best in the whole world. Professor Winston Bender, one of the best in the whole world. If you have such people, we can talk to them. To say, Prof, what position do we take? I thank you very much, and I wish you all the best as you continue to deliberate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. We appreciate your sacrifice, your time, your knowledge and insights. And we know that you're pressed to leave for another engagement. We had to give you a little more time to let you round off because you're the chairman of this event. So I'm hoping that others will not think that they will take as much time as Ambassador Egali took. But we also hear you clearly. I personally don't see too much of a conflict between what you're saying and what others, particularly maybe, has said. You are just advising, you are just counseling that we look at the issues very critically and strike a balance where there is need. Thank you, Ambassador. We'll let you go so that we can also continue with others.
Bina, you doing?
Yeah, Bina.
Good evening. Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can.
Okay. I am saddened by the lethargy with which we as Ijaw people view issues that affect us. I remember exactly about a year ago, Biba, myself, Rosemary, we were looking for the bill, the original bill, but we couldn't find it. And I want to say thank you to Honorable Julius Pondy, if he's on, and if he's not, somebody should tell him that we're very grateful. We're able to lay our hands on a copy. And since then, trying to sensitize the Ijaw people to this issue has been a problem. But I'm grateful today that at least we are on here, we are talking about it, and we're going to work on it. But also, I would like to suggest an action plan that's something we can do right away. We need to get the phone number of the vice president, and we need to get the numbers of all our legislators, and every Ijaw person must send them a text message, which is the cheapest form. We need to do something. We cannot sit back and just wait and expect our governors, who are always making deals behind our backs, to support and help us at this point. Another thing we can do, every community needs to get a banner. It's just say no. Whatever your community name is, you can say the Ekerema community says no to the water bill. Stand in front of your water side and take a picture or do videos, and then we can begin to post this all over the place. Send it to the UN, we compile them, we send it to the news media. We need to do something. This affects us more than anybody else in Nigeria. A situation where, like the parents said, where they can come and say, okay, this is federal government land, you have to relocate. This is going to happen to us if we keep quiet. This has been happening for almost a year now. Look at how much time we have spent. But like I said, you know, better late than never. We need to do something immediately. I'm begging everybody, talk to your community, talk to your people. Let us begin this campaign right away. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bina. Thank you, Bina. Thank you, Bina. Is Honorable Julius Pondy on?
So, moderator, sir.
Yes.
I tried to reach out to him, and while you are also waiting for him, may I introduce again, for just 1 minute, Dr. Stephen Benstow from the United States, Mr. Amai B. Clarkson, and my brother, in whose stead I have been doing these introductions. Fortune Connor Alfred is the one we are seeing on the screen now. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Kingsley, for that very masterful way of taking some time to do your honors. Fortune,
yes,
so if there are any more questions, comments, we would like to quickly take them so that we go back to the resource persons for each of them to make short responses to some of the questions and observations that have been made here.
Yes, I have. Yes, good evening now, my respected elders and everybody that have joined us in this very august conference. I think this is very, very auspicious. I'm supposed to be the compare. My elder brother, Kingsley Kuku, has done a very, very, very superb job in that department. So let me go straight to why I'm talking now. This Water Resource Bill is something that's very, very important to the Ijaw man. For instance, if you take the Kule of the Amayana Bo of Nembe, you hear things like the Amayana Mingiyana. So it tells you that from time immemorial, the waters have been very, very, very important to our existence. Today, there's also no distinction between water and land in the Ijaw Nation, because what's land, what's water today could be land tomorrow, and when flood comes, what's land turns to water. That aside now, so many of the speakers, the last one, Bina Yodowe and even Ibiba Don Pedro, when she spoke about the liturgy in terms of leadership and the lack of commitment of our National Assembly members. So my question now would be, how do we get our National Assembly members to be on board to push this matter that's very, very important to us? That's on the one hand. Two, for the benefit of everybody, I know we'll still get the paper, but let's assume that some people will get the paper but will not read it. The keynote speaker, if one is to ask us, for instance, specifically, that what are those areas of this bill that the Ijaw man should look out for that affects our interests? For instance, what are those clauses that are inimical to the interests of the Ijaw man? What are those particular places we can talk about, and what ways do they affect us? So that as we go forward, we can think about building bridges with others that are also affected. That's a given. But as Ijaw people, what are the specific clauses of this law that impact on us, that affects our corporate and strategic interests as a people? So that's my question. Thank you very much. I think I'm within my 2 minutes now. Thank you once again. I'm done, and back to the moderator.
Yes. Thank you. Mr. Nanakumo, you want to ask a question or make a comment?
Unmute, please.
You have to unmute yourself.
Unmute your
phone. I think I'm unmuted now. Yeah. All right. Thank you, moderator, and thank you, all my Ijaw brothers and sisters. It's been a wonderful conference, and it's good to see Ijaw people passionate and patriotic to discuss existential threat of the Ijaw Nation. To our Ijaw people, we are under great threat, and it's been on for quite some time, but it's getting worse. And this bill is totally unwarranted, unnecessary, immoral, and unacceptable. And there should be no reservations for just to express that. And I was impressed by what the Royal Father said, and in his very short statement, he made it clear, and has been re-emphasized by others, is that our land, we could be asked to vacate our lands for other people at any time, and we are being infiltrated even right now by those who want to conquer territories and appropriate territories to themselves. They've done so with our resources that God has blessed us. They turn into a curse, and we suffer pollution and all that. So we should reject without any reservations this bill. And as Bena Yodowe said, we have to take action. I think what she suggested is very practical, especially the part of communities making signs, demonstrations, let's put it that way, making banners and saying that we reject this, and we post it in social media. And it would have been I would have been very pleased, happy if the Honorable Pondi had appeared to address this August gathering, because that would be very impressive for the first time, and I think so. And the Ijaw member of the, excuse me, elected member in the House of Reps will confer with us and tell us how it will help in this situation. So it's unfortunate that it couldn't be commented. So I would say that we should move ahead and do everything that's necessary to reject this bill in its entirety. Thank you and God bless everyone.
Thank you, Ebipamone Nanakumo. Thank you. Let me just use this opportunity to convey the apologies of Honorable Fred Agbedi, a member of the House of Representatives representing the Sabama Ekeremo Federal Constituency of Bayelsa State. He regrets missing this program and says that he has been involved in another engagement that also concerns the Water Resources Bill. So then I invite my brother Eugene Abels to ask his question. To ask his question. And I'd like us to keep it to 1 minute. We can take just maybe 1 or 2 more and we revert to the resource persons.
Okay, yeah, good evening now. My seniors, I greet you. I stand on the existing protocols. Mine is one of the comments. Number one, why does the federal government, which is complaining about the size of bureaucracy, want to expand it? And why we're talking about the over-centralization of authority, why do they want to add waters to it? Why, from the presentation of my big sister Ankyo, when she said 6 kilometers means a whole of Abonima will be acquired. The same thing will apply to Buguma, Degema, Harristown, and so on. So the implications there. So I want to make the following recommendation in line with what Dina has said. She took some of the words out of my mouth. Number one, we need to inform our people, whereby what Fortune is asking for might need to raise a technical team to raise out those things, how this will work against us as a people. Number two, I'll suggest that we reach out to other ethnic nationalities in the region to think that they say when your neighbor has a cat fire, not to say you know go reach your own, so that everybody begins to put their hands on it. Number four, I think we need to manage this process so that we do not make it partisan. So because we need our people to be in all the political platforms, because that's the reality of our laws, and those are the platforms for expression of interest of various ethnic groups and individuals in our polity. We need to manage, and as we think, need to now begin to mobilize our people, the ordinary people, for them to know that everybody needs to speak out, because if you leave it to the politicians, they will always negotiate their interests. Don't forget, 2023 has started, and some people might want to, but once the backlash is enormous, they are bound to back down on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugene. We will take the last comment. The last comment, but please keep it to 1 minute from Dr. Ayakeme Whiskey, and then we'll go to the resource persons. 1 minute, please, Dr. Ayakeme Whiskey.
And honestly, Mr. Moderator, Honorable Pondi has been trying very hard to get connected.
Oh. Okay.
He really wants to speak to the forum.
Yes, if Pondi comes, we can make a concession for him. Okay, because he's a member. Yes, he's the one we are sending the call to action to. Dr. Whiskey, please.
Okay, thank you, moderator. I thought you were never going to acknowledge my persistence to speak.
You know that's not
I want to thank you for the opportunity. Very quickly, I want to remind Ijaw people in this house that in 1969, the military government expropriated our rights to oil and gas resources by enacting the Petroleum Act. And from that day forward, we lost our rights to manage the proceeds from oil and gas, which hitherto was being managed by the regions. That was our source of wealth, and we were paying federal government royalty. The game changed. There was little anybody can do because we were just coming out of a major civil war, and because it was under a military government, there was nothing we could do, and that those obnoxious laws gained solid ascendancy until tomorrow. The Ijaw Nation from Ondo to Akwa Ibom, the major oil and gas producing belt, are suffering the gruesome effects of that singular act by the military government. Today, and of course, from over the years, those of us, some of us who are speaking here, we have been writing, condemning Petroleum Act, condemning Land Use Act, because these were all military-backed legislations that none of us had the capacity to influence. But today, by the power of God, under our nose, this bill is being brought forward by Buhari. Ask ourselves, why did the Sharaki National Assembly throw away this bill? It was brought up there, but the Sharaki National Assembly threw it away because of some positions from some of us. This bill has been brought back. Now, I want to remind us, there was a reason why the present president of Senate was pushed in there to perpetuate an agenda. There is a reason why the so-called Speaker of the House of Reps was put in there to perpetuate an agenda. I doubt whether the Speaker is a Christian. I'm sure both the Speaker and the President of Senate are Muslims. Now, I'm coming. It's 1 minute. The point I'm making is this. The present leadership of this country always has an agenda to pursue. It is either Ruga or it is ranches, or it is left, it is right. We must stand tall in this matter. I'm not interested in the grammar of hydrosciences and hydrological studies. No. The political connotation of this is to take our rights away from us as the Ijaw people. After all, since 1960, Sadwana told them that we are a conquered minority, and that is what the present leadership is trying to prosecute. I will not live to see this gain ascendancy. Please, the Ijaw Nation must do everything possible, even if we have to mobilize from community to community to stand against this bill. I thank you for the attention.
Thank you, Dr. Ayakeme Whiskey, for those very profound reminders. Julius Ponde is here. Honorable Julius Ponde, welcome. Please just go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much. First, I want to thank everyone of us.
2 minutes, please.
Yes, particularly the person that put this together. Now, I want to say that first, as National Assembly members, I agree with Abiye's position that there should be an alternative means to stop this bill. I am a member of National Assembly, precisely, but if we must go by the numbers, we don't have it. We don't have it. If you put Bayelsa, it's 5 members. Delta, we have just 2 members from Delta. Myself and Nicholas Motu, them Rivers, maybe like 4. Is this a very small number compared to 360 members? So we can do. Taking a walkout is not an option. You do that, the bill will still go ahead. So I think if a big position is that, taking a legal perspective, yes, I agree with that. Then in the Senate too, first, let me just say this, even if this is not the right forum to do that, we do not have a job forum in the National Assembly yet. Though we are working on it. This bill couldn't sail through the last assembly because it was stopped, not only the short people in this contest now, other people that also have water that don't want the bill to survive. But we don't know what happened. It was smuggled into the ninth assembly. And there was the particular day that this bill was brought up, the person in charge of the business of the House listed bills that were not passed in the last assembly as it's practiced in the House and put it on at the very bottom of it. It was about 20 bills, and this water bill was the 20th one, I think so. So some of us detected it. Even it was an Igbo man that detected this bill and said, come, they are trying to smuggle this bill into it. And the process in the National Assembly, every bill needs to go to public hearing. They are trying to dodge the public hearing as well. That clearly shows that there is a secret motive behind this bill. So when the comrade was talking about remember what they are doing, and I actually felt insulted because some of us, everywhere trying our best. So even if I would have thought that program like this, members of the National Assembly would have been asked to join so that we can also learn from what people are saying, give you our own opinion and perspective. They will put this together and we'll come out to a single position. But I'm really one here now, and the comment was insulting everybody in the National Assembly. I said, oh, that is not too good enough. So from my point of view, if legal, I'm not a lawyer, but if legal perspective can all this bill in the interim, why not? But members of National Assembly, job members of National Assembly can do very little, honestly. Honestly, it's a dangerous bill. I'm from the very interior part of our creeks. I know what it means for federal government to tell you that we now own your water. I know what it means, but it's not what I can do alone. It's not what 2-3 members can do alone. It is collective decision and position of the job people. But in doing that, we must all come together to do that. Legal perspective is, for me, is good, but if we must go to the act and say yes or no, how many persons do we have? Still your work out, at most you do a press conference outside the bill, because there's a motive from the presidency that brought this bill. They will go ahead and do what they want to do. My opinion.
Thank
you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very useful comments there from Honorable Julius Pondy. Thank you for weighing in. I think that we cannot take any more comments or questions. We might run the risk not only of time, but also of repeating ourselves over and over. Maybe Clarkson seems he wants to ask a question. We do not mean to preclude anyone from commenting or asking questions. I know that this is a very touching topic and everyone has a view, but we are pressed for time. We seek your understanding. I see some of the comments coming on the chat box. Perhaps because of that, we will allow one more person to ask a question or make a comment. I hear a comment saying we want to hear fresh voices. Isaac T, we can't hear him. Okay. We can't hear him.
Can you check your mic, please? We can't hear you. We can't hear you. Sorry.
Julie Deere wants to ask a question or make a comment. Julie, if you're ready. We can't hear you.
Good evening to all the elders in the house and my fellow Ijaw people of the Niger Delta. It's a great pleasure for me, I'm here, I'm asking, I'm able to participate with this, which I came across by chance, even though I'm a very active social media person. So I think it's about time we had a bit, okay, I just want to quickly say a few things that I didn't hear about this until I stumbled into it from someone who is barely ever online. I think we should try to reach out a bit more, capture more people, not just the known names like Kingsley Cuckoo and and such people. We should get out. We should reach out to people who are digital as well, and then we should try to widen our scope. Let's not just be so linear-minded about those we know who can pursue these things. Some of us are librarians, some of us are archivists, some of us have a lot of international connections, like people in the house of in the House of Parliament, in other places, people we can relate to, other African presidents, leaders, and all that. I think these are resources as well, which we can scoop in to help us in this fight. I don't think we should go into this alone. And then secondly, the last speaker said he thought that this is a finished business, that the government is going to go ahead and do this. So I just want to say that, please, can we have a plan B in case they go ahead with this? And this is where I think also diplomacy is really important, reaching out to heads of governments, parliamentarians, you know, and finding out what laws that pertain waterways in other countries, what they entail, so that we can also use it to fight our cause. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julie. Very spot on. At this point, I am sorry that we would have to go back to the resource persons. I know that everyone has a comment or question in their mind, but there will be more opportunities. This is just the beginning. This is just the trigger. I think we're using this to initiate either dialogue and conversation on water resources, but also all the things that touch on our very existence as a people. Let me then yield the floor to the resource persons, starting from the keynote speaker, if he's available, to have a last opportunity to respond. And from after the keynote speaker, then the guest lecturer.
Hello. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes. What has been demonstrated here is some success, I want to say, because there is awareness now that this bill has to be confronted. Now, my take is I have listened to everybody very, very, very well. I'm going to now upgrade my paper, although I want to think it's a bit sufficient because it has anticipated most of the questions that have been asked. Again, there is the fact that Ijaw Nation is bereft of leadership politically, leadership legislatively, because these are the people that should have taken up this fight, not IPA. IPA is a child of circumstance, has only stepped into the breach in the absence of these critical stakeholders. You see Pandev, you see Afenifere, you see Ohanese. INC is comatose. We're like an orphaned people. That's why we are doing this. There is not much we can do now. We can answer all the questions. I do not think that there is sufficient capacity to stop the assembly from going ahead with the bill. It's going to be passed in the past. Unfortunately, the fighter, the man who led the fight against it the last time has changed camps. So in fact, he is now a protagonist of this bill. I'm talking about Senator Akpabio. Our own people are already defeated. I've listened to the reference to lack of numbers to fight it. And sometimes one tree can make a forest. But I'm not going to say that they are they have to support them. There is a young man here, Miabie. He's yes, the response of the youth. It is this fight. I've said it time and again. The instruments of battle of the Ijaw people must change. You break heads, so you begin to go to war. It's not the fight we can fight, it's not the fight we can win on the battlefield. Even when you finish fighting on the battlefield, you still must go back to sit down to negotiate. So it is a fight one, and we've got to use number one, our brains. So I am going to commend and thank those who put this together. It has been very, very, it's an eye-opener for me. I have had my first time in participating in this, and it's a call to service to do more work. Those who are scientific in their approach are correct. Those who are legalistic in their approach are correct. Those who are emotional are correct. It takes a village. It takes all people to make a village. It is time for our traditional rulers, our agitators, our legislators, in my paper, I said it is time for everyone, all strata to come together. This is a battle that no one can win, but it's a battle that we all must fight. I thank you very much for the opportunity to take part and contribute. Thank you very much, sirs.
Thank you, Leonard Silk. Before we let you go, on to this.
Yes, sir.
In addition to the political action and the social action taken,
yes, sir.
Is it possible to initiate a legal challenge?
There is always that possibility, like you know very, very well. It exists. You can go to court for anything. Now, it depends on how the reliefs you are seeking. Number one, it is doubtful that stop the assembly from doing what it's set up to do. The assembly is a law-making body, so it must always make laws. It is only when it makes laws that are not within its capacity, that doesn't have capacity for by the Constitution, that can stop it. And in my paper, you would see I made reference to a case that was initiated by now the vice president, when the assembly made some laws in respect of, I think, yes, yes, that is a precedent to go to court now. But of course, the ideal thing is let the law be made, then you challenge it as unconstitutional. Now, you don't know how it's going to end, but this law is dangerous in the sense that it's past 2 readings, and they have refused. It indicates that there is something sinister afoot. But I am ready to work with my colleagues to file anything. Perhaps that is the least pendants doctrine that, okay, you've gone to court, so until it is decided, nobody may take advantage of, yes, it is possible to go to court. Go to court. Whether you, like you know very, very well, to enter court is very, very easy. To come out and with the result else. Thank you very much. We can go to court. We can try. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonard Silk. Yes. If Professor Kaba is on, we would like to give him a couple of minutes to respond. Professor Kaba, if Kaba is not in, then we will go to the next item. Professor Kaba is not in, then I think we'll just proceed towards the conclusion of this program. We've had so many brilliant discussions. Time is fast spent, and okay, time is fast spent, and we may not even be able to do justice to itemizing all the points that have been made here. Okay.
Okay.
Professor.
You can start the same way we did the last one. Okay.
A quick class show. Yes.
Nero, just 1 second. Professor Kaba is on. He'd like to say something real quick.
Okay, good.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. Like I was saying, it should just go beyond condemning, and also for Ijaw people to realize that we cannot do it alone. So let us try and join forces with people in the same circumstance. And you know, the leading group in the Niger Delta, we can take the lead, provide support from all the neighboring communities that are so affected. And also prepare an alternative to what the government is proposing, because it will be difficult for us to throw the bill in its entirety. Just like Igali was suggesting, we could come out with something, some regulation, there's no doubt about it, but some in the way that it will also suit us. I think that is my last minute comment. Hello?
Okay, he's done.
Wills?
Yes. Thank you, Prof. Okay. Thank you, Prof. So let me once again remind us that because of time, we're not able to do certain things ordinarily we would have. For example, itemizing most of the crucial points that have been made here. I would like to go quickly to the next items, except if Kingsley, I'm sure you don't have anyone else to introduce because we're coming to the end of the program.
No, sir, I'm good.
Yeah, but to say, before Ben comes, Ben, who is the original moderator, before he comes, just to assure us that the organizers will put a team together that will look at all the points that have been made here. There will be a plan of action coming out of this, which will cut across political, social, legal, diplomatic, and otherwise. And so at this point, I think what is urgent is to move on to our dear brother, Ben Okoro, who will give the vote of thanks for this program. Ben.
Okay. Yes, it's been a very, 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 incisive evening, and it's been long. This is an Ijaw survival critical topic, so it is worth it. Unfortunately, technology challenges us today the most, since I've been attending the few that I've attended in all of these things. Be that as it may, I really want to appreciate the key speakers here, the keynote speaker, the SAN, and Professor Kaba, that he went ahead and still gave his lecture despite the difficulties with the system. The chair is not here. He brought in quite a few other insights. The need to also look towards data science. And our panelists that did a very good job, I want to thank you very, very much. And we'd also appreciate Honorable Julius Pondy, who was part of today's event. And also there was some apology that from one of the other members that Iniro gave. We thank you all for patiently participating in this. All the other speakers, His Royal Highness, I love the way he put it. I think it was under 2 minutes. Thank you so much, Your Highness. Thank you, Briggs, and the comrade Eva. Thank you. There's a lot of passion to this topic. I think we should move to the stage of actual work to get something out of this. But I also want to remind the House that there is one very simple and immediate action that we can be doing at the communities, as suggested by Bina Ijaw. That one doesn't cost us anything. Let's instigate that immediately. And finally, the INDG group for facilitating this, thank you so much. Like I said at the beginning, this is an Ijaw survival critical matter. All attendees, I'm looking at the list here, we've dwindled down to 67 from 100. It is still a good number to sit down for 3 hours. It's on to Mbana. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Ben. And just a reminder to all of us that this is not a one-off talk shop. This is something that has just started a process, and therefore all of us that have attended this program are part of the action plan that will be kicked off from here. So you are already in a reserve army, so to speak, but a reserve army of brains. Thank you.